Oh, I'm going to try to find the YouTube thing for it first.
Yep, I just got a notification. We are live.
All right.
And we have one waiting.
Let me hit mute. 4 people watching. Hello, 4 people. What's up? 227060. Bit of the gang is late coming in, so I thought we'd start right at 9 o'clock, so you guys can talk amongst us until the others come on in. There's Ashley. Here comes Ashley.
There's Ashley.
Here comes Dark Mark.
Dark Mark. So while we gotta wait for my clone to show up. Let's see.
Hey,
yeah,
Ashley.
Brett. Yeah, like Brad said, I was actually asking you, Brad. I mean, I didn't know if you actually read the Immortal Hulk yet or stuff, but so
I did. The Immortal Hulk is very, very good.
Very good. Yeah, I was actually.
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised by it. Actually, kind of has that old, kind of goes kind of like that old kind of like TV show feel, obviously too, and also the.
Well, if memory serves, there was a TV show reference in there. Wasn't there McGee or something?
Yeah, the reporter is named McGee, but they've kind of gender flipped her because for reasons. But yeah, they went back to the old standby of the Hulk. Now it's like he transforms into Hulk at night now.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Although I'm not sure if he has to be killed first and then transform or something. Is that how they're going to have the?
I have no idea, but I hear that the Hulk is smarter than Banner.
Yeah,
now, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I like that idea.
Yeah, I do. It's going to
something not done before.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Sorry, guys, but my camera doesn't seem to be working.
Oh,
have you hit the side of it and cussed, Mark? Oh! I thought I had you there, Mark.
Yeah.
Actually, what's going on? We haven't talked in a long time.
I know, it's been so long.
Like what, May, I think.
Oh my God! These past 2 months have like been a blur. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
We were doing bridal party stuff last night.
Oh, that's
so we were doing makeup and hair trials and stuff.
What day's the wedding again?
September 15th.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Zach just texted me. We ready, playa?
Oh, sounds like
all right, here we go. I just sent Zach the Hangout link.
All right.
Mark, is there any way you can test that cam? What's going on with it, man?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's the same camera I used last time. So.
Have you rebooted recently? Hey, Zach.
You're late, Douglas.
I am not. We've been on here for a while. I sent it on Gmail. I'm sorry. I guess I didn't send it to you on Facebook.
Right. By the way, bonus points for anyone who can guess what Dark Mark's avatar is.
It's a owl.
Boba Fett something.
But from where?
No clue.
No, nobody gives a shit.
Zach.
Oh.
Way to welcome our guest. It's like George is here.
Well, okay, Mark. Let me ask if it's actually close to the mark. No offense.
Close to the mark.
Does it have anything to do with Greek mythology?
It does.
See, that's your clue, folks. And also your second clue.
Bella is not here anymore. She hasn't been on the show in 8 years.
But it was also from something that's a remake.
Don't give me Greek mythology. I don't need this in my life.
Does the word boba have anything to do with it?
Close.
Although it's
or does it have fett?
According to JR, Stella died 8 years ago.
Hey, listen, I'm going to turn off the computer and turn it back on. See if that helps.
Okay.
Reboot it.
Right.
Matt Bird wants to know where's George. George can't make it until later in the show, so he might be here an hour in. So
it'll take us an hour to get started, so he'll be on for the entire show.
Right? Yeah, no kidding.
Hornacek says Boo Boo Fett.
Boo Boo.
Boo
Boo from the Clash of the Titans, says Hornacek.
I was thinking Boo Boo like Yogi Bear.
This says it's going to have to update and restart. So who knows how long that will be. But I'll be back as soon as I can.
All right. We'll talk amongst ourselves.
2270-60. I know education's good, but you can eat me.
Tom wants to see my new shirt. I got this for Father's Day, Tom. It says "Amazing Dad."
Oh, that's awesome.
So cute.
There you go.
That is cool.
Did
I like
Ava
that
get
too.
that for you?
Ava did get that for me.
Did she pick it out online?
She went to my phone, put it in the Amazon cart, and I paid for it.
Oh yeah. Hopefully, Mrs. Crawlspace was basically supervising your daughter as she
Yes.
At least
Yes.
she was spending real money on real things that are
Boogie.
tangible instead of spending real money on like tokens for her game.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't envy
gosh.
the tokens for the game stuff.
Boogie,
That's
come here. Come on.
Yeah.
Is Bogey the 9,000-pound cat going to make up an appearance?
Yes, he likes to bite my butt when he's not getting attention. So
I thought that
Why
was
did-
next job.
Fascinating.
if I had a dog like that, I'd put it up for adoption.
Come
Don't
here.
bite my butt. Ugh.
Come
Thank
here.
you, Tom. I'm glad you like it.
Manners. Come here. Come here.
Bernardo, when you have a joint bank account, you always pay for your own gift.
Here.
JR, am I right?
More than yes, you are.
Okay, 22, 70, 60. I know that Greek mythology is fun. That it's the foundation of language. I get that.
I
And
thought Latin was.
I enjoyed having my Latin lesson from Stella every month when she was on. However,
Oh, go ahead.
she's been gone for 8 years.
And 270 wants to know why JR hasn't quit Amazing. I thought he quit.
JR didn't say he was going to quit. JR said he was considering and that it might make him quit.
Oh, yeah.
And we will find out that answer, I'm sure, as soon as we get
Oh,
to
yeah.
the.
I'm looking
I
forward to
expect
years.
like JR is going to be Lone Rangering it with a freaking like a couple of Uzis trying to shoot everybody's bullets of truth.
Josh says JR can't physically quit. Spider-Man is in his blood.
Sadly,
Goblin-
that is all true.
It's like a bad Clone Saga plot from the 90s.
Oh,
Spider-Man in your blood.
right there.
Well, I was saying I thought the Goblin serum was coursing through us with JR's blood, actually.
There you go.
Because
He did take the Goblin.
just when he thought he was out, they pull him right
back here again.
Uh-huh.
Hey, JR should be thankful for fans like me. It's fans like me that read the Clone Saga and brought back his all-time favorite character because they needed because he was plot device.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I actually am grateful to Bob Harris for that. 227060. I have already been rebooted with Spencer. If you have seen any of the two podcasts that he has been on, I have been clear. He is clearly my reboot.
Very much so. Yes.
As we're waiting for
How many Spencer jokes can we make in the same podcast?
there's a lot of Spencer dropping in this show.
Yeah, I know. I used to clean him out of his diaper, but anyway.
Spencer Fettinger and Nick Spencer. Yeah.
So what did Spencer Fettinger think?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Spencer Fettinger has been at a show choir camp all week, and he just got back tonight. So I have absolutely no idea what he thinks.
Oh, what time does he get home? You should call the boy down.
We got home. He got home early. We got home. He got home earlier. We all went out to dinner. But since he hadn't seen his girlfriend in a week, he has to go see his girlfriend. So I still don't know what he thinks.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make any jokes about
Young love.
Hornacek says Nick Spencer Fettinger. Maybe Nick Spencer is the offspring of JR.
I had to do a double take when Brad texted a few days ago and asked me, "What did you think of Spencer's first issue?" And
that choir camp was actually.
That's funny. Oh, while we're waiting for Dark Mark, I'm going to put this up on the Facebook page and the main page. Let me do that.
Okay.
JR runs away.
JR is running away as I do behind the scenes stuff.
Let's see. Oh no.
Yeah, we should normally probably do this before we start the show.
Well, no, someone's having technical problems. It's not you, Zach. I mean,
this may be the first time in 12 years that this has happened.
it's all good.
Are we sure
like there's certain hallmarks that are universal truths to Spider-Man Crawlspace podcast. I have technical issues.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin would say prison ass, at some point.
Oh, good.
Within a 6-month period. Brad would like something and Kevin would hate it. Stella would educate us with some sort of Stella would try to get Brad to say Themyscira, which
Oh yeah, I didn't know how to say it for Wonder Woman.
It's not Themyscira, it's Themyscira.
Themyscira. Yeah. So I screwed up the own joke.
That's funny.
And then Ashley would talk about Black Cat. I would talk about clones. Somebody would call McNulty my clone, even though we look nothing alike. We sound alike.
That's where the whole thing.
That was all Donovan's fault too.
Oh yeah.
You're just naming the whole cast of players.
Yeah,
well, don't forget. Well, in addition to the fact that I sound so much like Zach, I also have the big giant head of the group, especially with the hold my camera.
I have the 5 head.
Yeah,
the 6 head.
No, because but again, if I sit for those who are wondering, because if I sit normally, like this is where I normally would sit, because this is where my monitor computer screen is. But because the way my camera set up is, it just enlarges my head. Something awful.
You look like
I'm MODOK. I basically MODOK.
You're It's almost like you're in broadcasting.
Oh yeah. So that's one of the reasons so if I go back like here, so I'm literally like about 3 feet away from my computer screen doing this.
Tom brought up.
I can't.
Yeah. Ashley is George's clone.
Yeah. Oh, there's
Okay.
Chi-Town. Chi-Town's
Hey,
good. What's up, man?
Hey,
I was gonna ask if Chi-Town was gonna make a cameo today.
I invited him. He's here. We
Here I am making a cameo.
Haven't officially started yet. We're waiting on Dark Mark's cam to boot up.
mm-hmm.
He's rebooting and updating.
So
Chi-Town had had a brush with greatness, didn't he? At the Graham Crackers.
Yes, I did.
Hold on, save it for the show. Save it for the show.
Oh,
Lord.
Anyway,
I could say
was it the Madison Avenue Graham Crackers?
No, it was not. No, that's in the loop. So no.
We've got four iTunes reviews to read. This is going to be kind of cool.
Ooh.
that I sent to Douglas.
No, I saw them earlier, but I appreciate it.
Oh, fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Done professionally, Douglas.
I'm
sorry.
YouTubers, while we're waiting, 35 of you. Thank you for showing up. By the way, 35 people.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to ask us? This is some. We're gonna answer some of your questions. By the way, I'll mention this at the end of the recording. Next month is the 20th anniversary of the crawl space of the website going online. So we will take live callers in August.
And for the first time ever, Brad actually remembers that his anniversary date is August.
August 8th, if I remember correctly, is when I put the site online.
Yes, it was August 8th. Sir.
August 8th.
Holy cow! That's that's Spencer's birthday.
Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
Are you kidding me, JR?
No, he was born August 8th, 2001.
Well, in 2000,
This is frightening.
1998.
Yeah, you were 98, so the site was 3 years old when Spencer was born.
Holy cow!
Wow.
I was about to. Maybe he really should come and replace me.
Knight was born, and a Fettinger was born on August 8th.
And on the 3rd year, the lightning struck on.
JR, I don't remember when I conceived the site though.
Well, I know that both children of mine were conceived in November. I have because they were both born in August. Okay. All right, Clover fan 98. Clover fan 98's got a question for me, real quick. Besides Spider-Man, I know you're a big Star Trek fan, and I wanted to ask, would you ever do a Star Trek podcast? I would participate in one, but I would never host one. I think a little bit of me goes a long way. And I can't ever see myself hosting a podcast. But to be honest, my interest in Star Trek is largely the original series podcast. For a lot of you young whippersnappers out there.
Bernardo wants to know what I think of Amadeus Cho's new name for his depowered Hulk. I am unimpressed because I don't remember it. and I read it. I was kind of over the Amadeus Cho Hulk about 2 years ago.
So he wasn't totally awesome for you, buddy.
No, he was not totally awesome. I think that book went a little bit too long. I think Bruce Banner should always be the Hulk. And I thought Jerry Dugan's brief run on the Hulk with Mark Bagley was pretty solid. I like how Hulk went around and depowered all the various Hulk that's Greg Pak created. The Red Hulk, the Red She-Hulk, the Blue Hulk, Rick Jones Hulk. The Hornet Sex says the credible Hulk.
Always checks his sources, which would be funny.
Bro Hulk is what most of people called him.
Was it Braun? I don't remember.
No,
Braun.
yeah, it was Braun, but no, but they nicknamed him Bro Hulk, or you know,
Bro Hulk, yeah,
because he had that stupid little faux hawk thing that he went.
Yeah, I don't. Hey, what? You don't have enough hair for a faux hawk. Neither do I. What are we talking about?
Ryan Reed's got a question for Ashley.
Oh, go ahead. Let's see, Ryan. Where did he say it?
Ryan had one, and then I got two.
Okay, go ahead. Read them. I can't see them.
His name is Braun now.
Yeah, it is Braun.
Okay, Ryan was asking.
Since Nick Spencer's brought MJ back to the book in grand fashion, what do you hope you will see with a black cat under Spencer's writing?
There you go.
Well, first thing I want to see, I want Felicia to slap Peter for his bye, Felicia.
Oh, I like the bye.
I love that.
I liked it, but he needs to get slapped.
Well, that didn't.
Yeah, where? No.
Oh God, Brad.
Brad, we just got MJ together.
Come on. It was well timed. It was appropriate, but that's the kind of thing you got to get smacked. So.
Well, I've never heard Felicia Hardy been ever told by Felicia before. I just thought that was kind of
yeah.
Yes, it needed to happen, but
for Peter Parker,
there needs to be the appropriate reaction as well. So that's the first order of business. I want her to be like, just give him what he deserves for that.
That's funny.
Because it's corny as hell. It's great, but it's corny as hell. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but
Symbio Bro wants to know what I think of Ewing's new Immortal Hulk. We already talked about that just a little bit earlier. I thought the first issue was great. Very, very cool. Was there another Ryan question for Ashley?
I had from Vinkman. Said I tried to ask this last message board show. That's probably where I ducked out because I was falling asleep. How would you rank all of Felicia's Black Cat costumes? I think I've said this before, but my number one Felicia Hardy costume is her the one after Peter dumped her, she goes and leaves the country and has this little sabbatical, and then she comes back and she wants to get back together with him, but he's met MJ, and I think they're married at that point, and if they're not, then they're completely devoted to each other, and she can't stand that, so she goes and teams up with the Foreigner to get revenge on Peter for spurning her love. But then she ends up double-crossing the Foreigner after he has played her false. I can't remember the exact details. But as part of her revenge, her declaration of revenge against the Foreigner, she takes these... He had like some golden statues. She takes them, melts them down to create these badass, pokey pauldrons.
Oh, I don't like that costume.
The black leather jacket over the white body.
Oh. That's your favorite, really?
That's my favorite.
I think I've been shocked. I think I've been shocked about this before too.
Was that what she did? That she did her whole 80s. She did her whole. That was like the whole 80s thing going on, right? What they had the. Okay.
Like spiky shoulders pads.
I'm not an 80s kid, but
God, I feel old.
Without fail, when I love something, like 80% of the time, it's from the 80s. Like if it's a movie,
it's all good.
If it's a show, if it's the way it looks.
No, that look is prison ass, and it needs to be acknowledged.
It's
I love it.
Now the 80s are making a comeback.
Ashley,
so
you should
who
cosplay.
knows?
I want to. It's on my list.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Zach, what did you sink? What happened?
I don't know.
Like Zach is like almost Home Improvement, looking over the fence at me.
227060 has a question. What was the best Spider/Goblin battle? Green, Hob, Osborn, or whatever? Peter Parker, number 75.
Ooh, a clone
Revelations, part 4.
That was the best one of all of them?
That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Norman
more than dropping the blonde off the bridge?
No, Norman comes back, and Peter and Norman come, face the reality that it's never been about their costumed identities. It has always been about them.
So there's a reason that I have been patiently saving for the final episodes of CSC, a very special guest named J.R. Fettinger, if he's available, to be a part of the show, because I know how much he likes this issue. And we are literally two 90s show episodes. Like we have just the stuff right before Revelations, and then we have Revelations. And so I've always wanted to bring JR in for that particular to cover those issues.
Just saw it, Mike. Mark, I'm sending the link on Facebook. There you go.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, and another reason it's so great. I mean, John Romita Jr. art.
Oh God,
Yep.
that.
By the way, what's happening to Romita Jr. at? Hey, there's Mark.
Hey.
Mark's there. What's happening to Romita Jr. at DC? It's Superman. What happened to him?
He did a Batman.
he did like a
Batman.
Batman.
He did also Batman for a while, and then I don't know what he's up to over there.
He's got some gal with a gun that's got a first issue. I forget.
Oh, yeah.
Shooter or something?
Silencer. No, Silencer.
Silencer. There you go.
It's basically a female Punisher, essentially. What it is? Because DC went into this whole thing where they trying to mimic Marvel. That's why they got this guy called Sideways, who's basically kind of like Spider-Man.
Don't want Romita Senior on a new
Junior.
character like that. Or Romita Junior. I'm sorry.
Well, he did.
I want him on Batman.
Yeah.
I just his artwork really is taking a nosedive outside of.
Hey, Mark, can you hold it horizontal? Can you flip it horizontal for me? There you go. Widescreen.
Yeah.
Got it. Nice.
Yeah.
Your wish is my command.
Brad gets triggered when you do vertical video.
Have you seen the new the YouTube movie theaters? The screens are vertical, and the seats are in front of it. You never go to that theater. You go to the widescreen theater.
Mm-hmm.
How's that, Brad? That better?
I like Bernardo's question. It says, what would you guys do if you had all the Infinity Stones?
I would put us all in one place to record this every month. with catered food, and the writers to come bring us the comics in their hands.
That's a little on the nose. I would take
the thing.
Maybe
time travel aspect would be very tempting.
Maybe we would rotate, and every month we just do it at a different location where we're all together.
Yeah, like Texas 1 month, Missouri 1 month, the moon where the Watchers hang out 1 month.
And we have Stan Lee.
The Amazing Spider-Man ride in Orlando.
There you go. How about down in Mephisto's realm?
Who Black Cat is.
Oh yeah. There you go.
We can also do a thing because with the time stone you can go back in time, go to 1960s Marvel office.
Yeah.
During the creation of Spider-Man. And we could try to warn Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and all those guys hey, there's certain things that are gonna happen.
Don't mess with time. We all see
I know, but
I'm getting an existential crisis just thinking about it.
JR, what year was Spencer born?
2001.
We could get streaming technology back to 2001. I could have a cake. We could have a crawl space birthday with Spencer and the website in 2001 on the same date. That's funny. I can't believe in all our years, JR, this has not come up. This is really funny.
Well, because you could never remember when the anniversary date of your website was.
Well, you couldn't remember your son, so we're even. No.
I always remembered it's his mother that forgot his birthday more than once.
Oh, so. Mom forgot his birthday. What?
She's more than once thinks he was born on August 1st rather than August 8th. So
don't watch this episode, Spencer.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. We haven't even started yet. Hello, the Devil Breaker. JR would be like, get the hell out of here with that live stream camera.
I was about to say you'd be watching me having one of those big video cameras.
Those camcorders on your shoulder.
Yeah, on my shoulder or whatever, and Spencer was born He can't, as they say in Macbeth, he was not born of woman. So
22-7 says he would snap every Spider-Man story since 2004 and turn it to dust.
Wow.
What if I wonder what kind of results you did if you went full Thanos with that snap and just at random half of the Spider-Man stories would just disappear.
Ooh.
There you go.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Ashley, you'll like this. The Devil Breaker says, "Hi, Brad. I just met Josh Keaton at a convention. He's really cool. He is really cool."
We didn't get to meet him.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, we stood in line, but he also is the voice actor for the really popular Netflix show Voltron. And we weren't able to get a ticket to stand in line, and it filled up immediately, just completely full of teenage fangirls.
I am a big fan of Josh Keaton. He wishes me a birthday every now and then on Facebook, which I think is kind of cool. And
so I can meet him this year.
I thought Drew Barrymore would do that since you guys share the same birthday.
Look at you remembering me and Drew Barrymore. Look at that. JR, your memory is not as bad as you say it is.
Well, it's not so much my memory. It's just the way that you hyperventilated when you interviewed her on your show that one time.
I did. I needed some mouth to mouth.
We're birthday buddies. We're birthday buddies.
Well, it's Drew Barrymore. I mean, it's kind of hard to not do.
I've got another restraining order I've got to have ordered. So.
Well, the gang is all here. So are we ready? Are we ready?
Oh, yeah.
I'm making pizza.
George, or you could do a podcast. What is this, a cooking segment? What?
Cooking with crawl space.
Cooking with crawl space. There you go.
Yes.
What dish will you? Zach will be cooking pizza. Mike, what do you got on the grill?
Oh, nothing at the moment. Yeah, I do have a steak in the fridge. I should probably, saving that for tomorrow.
I cooked ribs tonight.
Oh, you did ribs. JR, what was for dinner? I don't know why I'm asking.
I'm making waffles.
Okay.
Ashley, what's for dinner?
Jack made us ratatouille from the movie.
You made your rat?
Ratatouille.
No, Ratatouille.
It was a Pixar movie.
Oh, I know, but I didn't like that.
By the way, we had a cameo appearance by Jack earlier, and we didn't acknowledge it.
Oh,
yeah, he kind of waves, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll leave."
Hornacek on Cooking with Crawl Space. This week ingredient is flour.
No one likes that joke. Die.
Cooking with clones on the Crawl Space.
Did you guys hear my suggestion for the
What?
clones on Spider Jeopardy category?
What's that?
Flower power.
We are done professionally, Chi-Town. We are done. We are doing nice going on, but we are done professional.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay, we're starting. Let me pull up my iTunes reviews.
All right.
Love you, Zach.
Are you all recording? Oh, everything else too. Okay.
All right, here we go. Coming down in 3, 2. Hey, Crawl Spacers, welcome to our review show. Let's introduce the panel. We've got Zach. What's going on, Zach?
What up? What up? What up?
What up? Are you ready for a new number one?
The fifth time, man. I'm
fifth time's the charm, sir.
The charm.
And how much?
Count them. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
2. We gotta know it. 5.
As we often do, we're streaming on Netflix, and Vinkman, who's watching us live, says just wind Zach up and watch him go. Very true. And we also have Mike.
Netflix, by the way. This is not a Netflix and chill podcast. We're on the
Mike, what's going on, Mike?
Well, I am looking forward to this evening and listening to all of the thoughts about, because we have two very different issues to talk about.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, very night and day in some cases, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, hey, glad to be on again. So.
And to clarify, Symbio Bro says we're streaming on Netflix. No, we're not streaming on Netflix.
You said that.
No, I didn't. Did I say that?
You did. You said that.
I said that. I meant YouTube. We're streaming on Netflix. Wow. This is
Patreon members. You're doing a good job. If we're on
thanks. Hopefully nobody's chilling, or maybe they are. I don't know. Yeah. And we have JR. JR likes to chill on Netflix. What's going on, JR?
The last time JR was chilling was to late 90s music, boys and girls.
Was it "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal?
Oh Lord.
Oh man.
Wow.
It wasn't Runaway Train, was it?
That's funny. Boy, the
Oh,
YouTube
no.
chat is going nuts, and I said we're streaming on Netflix. That's hysterical. We have Ashley. What's going on, Ashley? We haven't had you on in a while. Welcome.
I know. It's good to be back. I'm glad my schedule finally worked out again, and
Very
I stopped
cool.
being randomly sick.
Yes.
But yes, I feel like I aged after reading issue 800. And I hate that I missed the chance to commiserate with everyone about
Real
it.
quick, what did you think of 800?
It's all over the place. God, it's stressful. It's just I think some of the ideas are fun, but just how we get there, it's so fast. It was just this frantic breakneck pace, and everything felt like really corny because it had to be shoehorned in. Just I think the moment that stood out to me the most was little baby Normie turning against Norman, being like, "Oh no, you tried to kill my mom. You're a bad guy." And Spider-Man tried to save her. I'm gonna help Spider-Man. Like in one panel, I'm like, "Oh my god." I'm getting whiplash.
No, Grandpa, we can't have that anymore.
I'm having Muppet Baby flashbacks now.
I'm gonna wake up hearing that.
And on the panel, we also have Peter, aka Chi-Town. What's going on, Chi-Town?
Not much, guys.
Welcome back, sir.
And I have something to show you.
Oh. For those audio listeners, he's showing us a Nick Spencer signed Amazing Spider-Man #1 with a Mark Brooks cover. Nice. Was that regular priced at the shop, or was that?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really nice. That's cool.
No. Cool.
No,
And-
no, not regular price. By regular price, I mean $50.
Oh,
Wow.
woo! Ah!
Listen. That
Well, I was about to say, gee, I hope that shows up at my local comic shop, but no, I don't now.
I think Chi-Town just stepped 20 years into the future when we were talking about cover prices of comics.
Wait, how much
So it was regular price. So it was $50. Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
thanks,
more now since
inflation.
it's got the autograph signature on it. But
We also have Dark Mark's in the house. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome back.
I'm gonna
think
drop
last
out in a
time-
minute and come back in again. I think I got my camera fixed.
I think last time you were on, we were talking about Hostess fruit pies.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was
I
a
think
fun
I still have that box of Twinkies that I use as a prop.
Dude, it'll survive the apocalypse. I mean, it'll that and spam. And also, George is going to be joining us just a little bit later. Hopefully, he will be able to join us for the Amazing 1 review, which, guess what? He liked it.
I know.
Ooh, he liked it a lot.
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
you
you
just
did.
gave out a spoiler.
Spoiler alert. I'm so sorry.
Way to bury the lead.
Bury this. All right. Okay. So for ASM number 801, Ashley is going to tackle this. And ASM volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, #1, Mike is going to review that one. Before we get to the reviews, I want to read some iTunes reviews. We've got a lot of them since we last read them. Let's see. Our first one is from, let me expand this window a little bit more.
Mark just cloned himself.
Yeah, he is a clone.
I have 2 marks.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get this thing here.
and we have Echo, and we have it in him in stereo
Okay,
too.
let's see. Which one do I?
He really is a
We'll
clone.
figure it out. Okay, the
That
review.
mark or that mark?
All right, we got it.
We have 1 mark now. 5 volumes, 1 mark. Okay, iTunes reviews.
It's a pile of flour here. I don't know what happened.
And you can bite me down there, Mark. You can bite me down.
Yeah, clones are gone. Okay.
Triggered.
The Crow Joe 111 posted this on June 9th, 2018. The Crawl Space is a pleasure to listen to every month, from reviews of monthly comics to being transported back in time to relive comics from a past month you were exposed to. Many facets of the wall crawler. The panel of podcasters are of different ages and backgrounds, so you do get a good perspective of the hero. The podcast sounds like a conversation among passionate friends, and it is enjoyable to listen to a pod that does not sound scripted and patched together. This is not scripted and patched together. We are live. We call this live to tape.
Better or worse?
Live to tape
Yeah,
is what this
okay,
is
right?
called in broadcasting. Okay, let's see. Bulls on Parade 45 is the handle for this one. Posted June 25th, 2018. Subject, crawl spaces, amazing, spectacular, avenging, and web of. 5 out of 5. Quote, such a joy to listen to. If you need the most knowledgeable people to comment, I almost said commit, to comment on all things Spider, I couldn't think of anyone better. So thank you, Bulls on Parade. That's really nice. And we have the Golf Master 32, also posted on June 25th. Subject, entertainment to the next level. 5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, boy.
I heard about this show from another podcast called The Cast for Casters and the Blasters and the Grandmasters. I like that name. That reviewed Dan Slott's entire run. One of the hosts suggested this show and said he loved it, so I gave it a shot and I loved it. Brad and the crew are phenomenally competent and know more about Spider-Man than anyone I've ever met. These scholars spin the most accurate and careful reviews of the Spider mythos. So thank you to that. That's really nice. The next one is from Jessica Jenna Maribel. 5 out of 5 stars, posted on June 26th. Subject title, Guy Eating Cheetos. I really like this show after hearing about it on the Cast for Casters, Blasters, and Grandmasters. I came over to listen to you all. Very funny and knowledgeable. The only problem is that some guy was eating chips and clicking his mouse during the show, and it was very distracting. Other than that, keep up the good work, Spider Files. That would be me.
Our professional host, ladies and gentlemen.
Our professional host. This is back when I had Skype to MP3 recorder, and I wasn't streaming it on the YouTubers or Netflix, whatever it is. And I hit the mute button. When someone's talking, I said, oh, I'll just mute and enjoy these Cheetos. Munch, right by my microphone. Oh, so evidently the YouTube or the Skype to MP3 recorder says, I don't recognize your mute. So out of 500 some odd episodes that she sampled, she found the one where I was eating Cheetos. So I apologize for my Cheeto fetish.
Boy, that was a Freudian slip.
I guess.
Oh,
okay. No. So that is all the iTunes reviews. Thank you for those. Please log on to iTunes and leave us a review. We'll read it right here on the show. Okay, the YouTubers are wondering if Zach is laying on the floor. No, Zach is back. Welcome back, Zach.
Off his back.
Oh, he went to go get pizza.
That's fair.
Okay, without further ado, this is what you 42 YouTubers, 41, we're losing them.
No,
pizza slice by pizza slice. Ashley has Amazing 801. Let's review it. Go ahead.
All right. Well, first off, I have to pull a bit of a Brad here.
That's a thing?
I admit this issue got major points because of the cover, because it's just so gripping. I love the line work. It looks really well designed. So I think normally I don't like assigning points just based on the cover alone, but in this case I'm compelled to. So
the art is beautiful in this issue, isn't it? Oh
yeah, Marcos Martin's great.
And this cover is so striking.
No, Ashley, stop it now.
You stop eating with your mouth full.
Chew.
Talking with chew.
I did chew.
I
like the cover. You can't stop me.
You're fawning over a cover, and that is fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
Is a part of the comic.
Man,
let me have this.
True.
Okay, Ashley.
Go eat your pizza that was made with flour.
yes, and yeast, asshole.
And yeast, yeah. Yeast. Okay, go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, we have Dan Slott, Marcus Martin, and Muntza Vicente on this issue. We open with just a brief recap of the Spider-Man origin. We all know and have practically internalized at this point. With he gets bitten by the bug, he goes into wrestling. He lets the guy get past him, and then he finds that Uncle Ben's been killed, and it turns out it was a guy he let get past him, and he realizes that he's got to take things seriously and become Spider-Man and help people. 3 weeks later, we see this guy, the main character of this issue, who is the main character for the majority of this issue, that we don't really see this through Peter's eyes. We see this through the eyes of Kenneth Kincaid Jr. Is that anyone we've seen before, or is he completely original to this?
Brand new.
Well, hello, Kenneth. It's nice to meet you.
One and done, yeah.
What's the frequency? Kenneth is your bench. No.
So he's working late, and he gets a call that it's urgent. He has to leave right now. They only have a few hours left, and he needs to get there right away. So he goes, calls a taxi, but realizes that he's out of cigarettes and decides he's going to stop in the store for just a minute to fill back up. He goes in, but it's in the middle of being held up, and so he gets caught up in the robbery. But right when things are starting to look bad, Spider-Man breaks in through the window, and if I remember right, that's this panel is a recreation of Amazing Fantasy number 15, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, at a glance you can tell it's just a recreation of the scene that was the cover of the original very first issue of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And he stops the crime. He saves the day, and this guy is able to get to the hospital where his he had to say goodbye to his father as he was passing away. And we go through this guy's life, and how we see him at the birth of his child, fathering his child, family get-togethers and holidays and so on, seeing his son's graduation, and seeing that he essentially owes it all to Spider-Man. That he remembers how he saved him and how important that was to him, and how it's really the effect that one night had on his life. So in the present day, we see Spider-Man. He's finding some thugs in the middle of the street, and he gets some help as one of the bad guys is getting away. This guy in the crowd sticks out his foot, trips the guy before he can get away. So, and then Spider-Man webs them all up, catches him, and is able to stop the crime. And Kenneth hands him the briefcase that the guy had been trying to get away with, and he has a moment just be like, oh, hey, he gets to exchange words with this hero, and he says, you saved my life on what could have been the worst night of my life. Spider-Man, of course, can't really remember, and he's like, don't worry about it. And he says, okay, so what I do, how'd I save you? And he just gives him a smile, says, got me to quit smoking.
Right.
And he swings off, and that's it. And after Spider-Man swings away, we stick with Kenneth, and his daughter's looking, she's disappointed that of all the superheroes they could have met, why Spider-Man? What's cool about Spider-Man? He's not like Thor or Captain Marvel or Black Panther, because they're the ones who saved the whole world, and they're involved in the, cool fighting off aliens or terrorists or, the big scale stuff. But he says, no, Spider-Man does that too. He saves a world every single day. He saves someone. He says every person out there means the world to someone, and Spider-Man goes out and saves them all. So whether it's someone's friend or loved one or, uncle, no matter what, that the people he saves, they all mean something to someone else, and he's making a difference just by doing that. He's saving their world one life at a time. And so she's like, you know what? That's pretty cool. And they go off, and they it's not his daughter, but excuse me, it's his niece.
Right.
But and they go walking down the street hand in hand with promise that he'll always be there for her, as we end on Spider-Man swinging off.
Yep. All right, so let's get your grade. What would your grade be?
I would say B+.
B+. Okay. Let's go around the horn. Chi-Town, what's your grade on this one?
About a C+.
C+. JR.
Yeah, I gave it a C.
Dark Mark.
C.
Ooh. Mike.
B minus.
Okay, Zach.
Zach.
All right. Sorry.
B.
I'll give it a B also. So let's go through your pros, Ashley. What did you like about it?
I liked the premise a lot. That I think it's a really good send off for Slot's run. Just kind of this, it's certainly better than 800, but just kind of a love letter to the character and what he means to the what his role as a superhero is. Mm-hmm. I really liked the end where it's like, well, you know, what makes Spider-Man different than, or what makes him so much better than Thor or Captain America? You know, the kind of the big hitters, and because it's that focus on the kind of the street level. The, you know, Spider-Man's always been the everyman, that he's been the one we're always involved in his life, and it's just kind of those more personal details. And I feel like that was the mission statement of this issue, and I feel like that's what came across, and I liked that. I liked saying that, you know, that while he might not have the cooler stories or like the more impressive settings or conflicts, it's about those things closer to home, about the more personal stories, and I like that a lot.
Hornus Second in YouTube chat says this would be a great grade if this was a Tangled Web issue.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. And then I liked the cover a lot. I liked, and I also like kind of how the story was told through someone else's eyes. I thought that was a little different. Not too keen on it for, you know, an Amazing Spider-Man issue. You know, as Hornacek said, I think this would be better as more of a side issue or a spinoff. It's kind of weird for the main line. But I did like that narrative choice.
Yeah,
I think it's great that Slot's "This is what Spider-Man means to me" story has really very little Spider-Man in it.
He's not the central focus. Let's go around the horn for pros. What, anybody join in? What would be some pros out of the issue?
To me, there was a very symmetrical feeling of this issue compared to what the beginning of Slot's run, which I really consider being the 5-part Spider-Man Human Torch miniseries. I think this was the spiritual ancestor to it. I think it harkens back to the time when we actually liked Dan Slott. If we had gotten more stories like this, this was probably the most Paul Jenkins likes Dan Slott story that's ever been written. And I really enjoyed Paul Jenkins when he was writing Spider-Man. I think he would have done a little better job on this particular premise. However, I do have to give the devil his due.
I see what you did there.
That was not intentional, but I do have to.
Zach and I gave it higher grades than most. I think JR gave it like a C, right?
Yeah, I gave it a C.
What was a pro out of you? What did you like about it?
About the only thing I really liked out of it was just like the way Marcos Martin did almost a Ditko-esque Spider-Man in the first few pages. I thought that was particularly you know, with the timing as well. You know, which, you know, I'm sure this was done ages, you know, weeks ago or months ago or whatever, but it turns out to be a nice little tribute to the man around the time of his death. So that was probably my primary pro. Actually, my only pro.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's appropriate that this actually, interesting enough, was kind of a flashback. It could just, you know, in part to Spider-Man's early days, because Martin really kind of emulates Ditko a lot in this, and not just because of the pose thing where he smashed into the window, but it's also the fact that I like how the origin is recapped, interesting enough, through Peter's perspective. Like it's everything is like first person view thing, like, you know, although the rest of the issue isn't taken from Peter's point of view. Interesting enough. But this was a cute issue. I mean, or a nice issue, essentially. It wasn't, I mean, and although I think some people would argue that, well, what, you know, superheroes save people. You know, what makes that special? I think it's because also the fact that we had that introduction, little prologue of recapping the origin of where Spider-Man didn't save an uncle, and now he's kind of burdened to basically save like another person's loved one, you know, especially this guy's an uncle, one step at a time. So it's kind of a reminder that, you know, how this guy says, well, Spider-Man saves everybody, but we have to remember the people that are closest to Spider-Man, he can't really save, if that makes sense. Like he's there's quite a few times that's happened where there's people that he's it's everyone else's, world, if you will, that he's able to help out. But when it comes to his own, it's
he sacrifices his own family to save others, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And so that was kind of the undercurrent there, which I
I think that the thing about this issue that is interesting is that it is a character study of Spider-Man without Spider-Man being the driving force behind the plot. There is a depth to this issue that I don't think has existed in Dan Slott's run for the most part. I think it was always the end of the world, bombastic, big bang explosions.
Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoon, if you will.
Yeah. Almost. And this was the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like his run would have been better regarded amongst this group if it had been a little more character driven and character study and character focused. Because quite frankly, this is the exact opposite of what we got with if you just read this issue of Dan Slott's run and didn't read anything else, it's the tale of two writers.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very strange how that's how he decides to end his run.
One that is unlike his run. Yeah. The one I had some flashbacks of The Kid Who Collected Spider-Man by Roger Stern in the 80s. That story wasn't about Spider-Man. That was about that kid that collected Spider-Man. And that took place during Amazing, and it's considered one of the best Spider-Man stories of all time. I think this was Slott. Yeah, I think Slott was trying to go for that type of story. Is what I'm not going to get cons yet. We haven't got all the pros out of the way yet. Let's Chi-Town, what's some pros out of you?
This is a story about what Spider-Man means to other people without Spider-Man being in the book, which is nice. But I think we've seen that a couple of times. That's why I gave it like a C. It was a good tale, but I wanted to see more of what Dan thought at the end. So, for 800, that was his big bang. But this is like a small firecracker compared to what 800 was. And I was expecting more, something like an epilogue to 800. But this was just, what Spider-Man means to people, which is great. But I was expecting more. That's why I gave it.
I say as a transition issue, it does work for the sense that there's not a.
It's kind of a breather.
Yeah, because I think if he had dwelled on everything that 800 had, I think it would have it could have hampered Spencer coming in. I think that having this issue kind of gives it a sort of a clean break for Spencer to take the baton and just be able to build his world. So
but honestly, I think if we just dragged out 800 anymore, it wouldn't have any charm at all. I think that's a pro that it didn't really try and cap off anything there. I think it's actually works in its favor that it's kind of a spin-off standalone without anything to do with that part of the story.
I agree with Ashley. I think it supports that 800 happened, and we're not going to dwell on it, and we're going to move the F on.
We haven't heard from Mark's pros. Mark, what was your biggest pro? What was your grade again, Mark?
A C.
C. So you thought it was an average book. What did you like about it?
The only thing I really liked about it was that first person perspective of the origin. The rest of it just kind of left me blah.
The line that I really liked is that Spider-Man saves everybody's uncle, or it saves somebody's uncle or somebody. I thought that line was nice.
It was a nice line.
I thought it was a very nice line, and that if I wasn't so jaded, I would have shed a little tear on that one. But I just went through 10 years of Slott, so I'm not going to cry.
Maybe followed by 80 pages of Slott.
Yeah, I went through 80 pages of Slott. Yeah. Okay.
The poll on my review, the readers, they put it up as an A and a B, pretty much split between A and B grade.
Okay. Any other pros that we haven't mentioned? We talked about art. We talked about
the cover.
The cover was very nice.
I love the cover.
Yep.
I was just going to ask, did anybody notice the Slott was here on the water tower?
It's barely, it's barely visible. I'm not sure if that's symbolic of something. The fact that when this Slott's last issue barely has his work, signature there. I don't know. Maybe.
I noticed there's a bunch of names on those soda cans on that.
Yeah, those are the editors. Like
okay.
Because one of them is like Nick Low Kohler.
Oh,
or something
was there Whacker Weed? I mean, not Whacker Weed.
Whacker Weed.
Whacker.
I think this was
I just killed Mark. I'm sorry.
Right.
Well, you can't get that at a gas station, or maybe you can.
Well, nowadays probably, but no.
Yeah. With Jay and Silent Bob. Okay, cons. Ashley, you start off with the cons. This is yours.
Well, what I like most about the book is that's the most ironic, and that's why what I didn't like as well, that it feels so tone deaf, and it's unfortunate that this is a great embodiment of like, hey, here's what really singles out Spider-Man and makes him unique, this kind of personal, down to earth, at home connection. But I feel like what everything Slott tried to do with the character was this big picture, as Zach was saying, the end of the world scenarios, and just a bunch of stuff happening, these crazy twists, and big stakes, but no actual personal connection to what's happening, and no investment. The characters did not really have any investment in these events that were happening. Mm-hmm. So it just falls a little flat when your statement is that, like, oh, this is what's so great about Spider-Man, when that's not what we saw these past 10 years. Yep. So that was really unfortunate.
I think the last 10 years we saw Spider-Man that can't do much and needs help at every turn. Is that what we saw? And I think that's what we saw.
And he was just completely not a responsible person. Kind of a douche. Excuse me. Yep. But
no, he was a jackass. Let's call a spade.
Not responsible for his actions.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Consequence-free Spider-Man. I hated it. I hated seeing this character that I love for their moral upstandingness and kind of this personal code that they hold themselves accountable to. Just sweating by like wah, wah.
Mm-hmm. Hornacek in the YouTube chats has a good point. Slott's last issue had no Peter Parker in it.
Right. But interesting enough, even in the last issue, Spider-Man technically gets saved by someone else. And it's some guy that we've never actually met before. Well, no, he does. Well, he helps him stop the bad guy.
That is true.
Yeah, that's different than being saved. But
what, Ashley?
One thing I do like that I think Slott was trying to do, and that I think he did well, was showing this, building this network of support that Spider-Man has, and just how the people around him can be so involved. It definitely fell flat sometimes, and there was not a lot of personal, you couldn't really get invested in it. But I like the idea that, he's, no man's an island, that Spider-Man really relies on the people around him to kind of be his heroes. Mm-hmm. So that's just something I was reflecting on.
Yeah. I agree with Mike's comments. That was what took it down for me from an A. Mm-hmm. Is one of my biggest complaints over the last 10 years is Spider-Man can't do anything by himself. Mm-hmm. And the hero of the story, which is what's his name? He's got the same
frequency. Kenneth.
Kenneth Cole? No, not Kenneth Kincaid. What's the name of the Cole guy?
That's a clothing design, or
no. The guy that's the Shocker knockoff that the Slott.
Oh, Clayton Cole.
Clayton Cole. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
We'll never see him again.
Anyway. You can only hope, right?
Anyway, one of my biggest complaints is how Spider-Man is always rescued, always needing help, always needing this and that, and even in his last story, Slott had that happen. Mm-hmm. So that took it down a little bit for me. Also, Spider-Man wasn't the main focus.
I'm going to disagree, because it's not a superhero. It's not the Avengers. It's not Clash. It's not the Prowler. It's not somebody that every day could save Spider-Man. It's the average Joe Q public. It could be you. It could be me that sticks the foot out and trips the guy. I do like the fact that he did bring the Mr. Negative's gang as like that. That's kind of cool, and that's very symmetrical to the beginning of his Brand New Day run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I kind of disagree on that notion that basically very rarely does the John Q public get to return the favor for Spider-Man.
I'll give you that. But the theory of someone else
really hate him too.
But the complaint is that someone has to save him.
Yeah.
Is my complaint.
I just think this is just a smidge different. I understand your complaint. I think this is just slightly different.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, nobody's mentioned it, but Marcos Martin is just
awesome.
Just great.
Beautiful.
Oh, he is.
In the YouTube chat, I like that. Oh, it's scrolling down. Let me see. 227060 says, I want to see Clash again so that Shriek and the Hypno Hustler can kill him. That was pretty good, sir. I like that. Let's see. Cons. Go ahead, Mike. Sounds like you got one.
I think as everybody kind of agrees that this it felt like it was like that feels more like a backup issue, and it felt like more like an untold
Tangled
thing.
Webs.
This kind of in that same vein, I think he definitely could have trimmed that in that regard, because this did felt like this felt like you were reading this. It felt like this was something that he probably had planned for like a backup in like an annual or something, but then he figured, oh well, I'll just use this in my last issue. I
think he wrote this last issue years ago.
Oh, I think so too. I think
Yeah.
I kind of get that. I kind of get the vibe from the thing like this, but
I also agree with your comment about how it feels padded, but I think he padded it for that Marcos Martin art.
Sure, I mean because that's the big selling point in this.
Yeah,
and I think part of it is that I think the thing is, and I don't want to say it's I kind of hate to say it's like kind of predictable. Like you could see where the pattern of the story goes. Oh, Spider-Man saved someone at the beginning of his career, and then someone comes upon and helps him, out years later. I mean, you kind of saw where that was going. I mean, but even if it is like, it's not terrible, but it's one of those things where it was kind of an obvious like direction he was taking this thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I just think it was just as a final story, it just kind of felt, and it just kind of felt like, it's nice, but it's not like it's something that you could have stuck in the back of an issue of like as an epilogue of some other bigger issue or something.
227 on YouTube chat. By the way, you need a better handle, sir.
No kidding.
He says 801 was one of Slot's earliest high school notebook entries.
Maybe
that's funny. JR, let's hear some cons out of you. What didn't you like? You gave it a C. You said it was an average book.
Yeah, I when I first read it, I thought, boy, I've seen this before. I think I saw a lot of this during Paul Jenkins' run. Just this type of story, someone else's perspective on Spider-Man. And I really thought that 801 was going to be more of an epilogue to Slot's run. I mean, I can't say a whole lot more different than Chi-Town already did. I thought maybe if it was going to be like an epilogue with, Peter at Flash's grave, or maybe, if we want to, seeing Spider-Man as a hero through Flash's eyes, how Flash perceives Spider-Man through the years or something like that. But I thought it was going to be a true epilogue,
what would an epilogue of 10 years be? Because it was all over the place.
Well, it would be an epilogue more to the last story. I mean, he killed off. I mean, he killed off virtually the oldest supporting character in Spider-Man. And then it just
it'll get better.
And then and there's nothing said. It just seemed like it would have more of an impact if he was going to do something that momentous. He would have something more to say, and instead, like I said, we get what seems like an inventory issue, or something of that nature. So it was very dissatisfying, really.
Maybe a reading of the will of Flash Thompson, or Flash Thompson left a story about how Spider-Man changed him or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it could have been something like that. But this, like I said, this just felt so generic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a blah ending to a 10-year run.
Yeah. Chi-Town has a guest. Who's just visited you?
That's my dog. She gets scared when fireworks are going off.
They're still going off?
Still fireworks. Yeah, there's teenagers out there.
What's your dog's name?
Zoe.
Zoe, there you go.
Zoe.
Cool. Con Chi-Town. What was your con?
This story, like I said, was what Spider-Man means to people. But other than that, it it wasn't really. I get to see that much of Spider-Man. I expected more, and just got basically something I saw from Paul Jenkins.
Yeah.
But that's about it. That's my only con for it. But it brought it down to like a C+ for me.
Right. Mark, what's some cons out of you, sir?
Well, aside from what's already been stated, it just highlights the whole issue I have with the Slott's run. He can write a neighborhood Spider-Man, but he chose not to for 10 years. So for his, his exit run, he throws, a little one out there. It just kind of, I'm just ready for him to be done. And it's like an extra issue that makes me have to wait before the next guy comes on.
Has anybody read Peter David's last issue of Hulk?
Nope.
No. That is how a last issue should be done, I think. Hulk 467. If you've never read it, it's a great. It takes place maybe 10, 15 years in the future. It's told through an old Rick Jones, and the Hulk. It is one of the best endings of a long-term run I've ever read. So
4661 or
467.
7.
Incredible Hulk 467 is probably my top 3 Hulk comics of all time. I love that issue.
Spider-Girl, the end's kind of very similar to that too.
Yeah.
You didn't mention, Brad, who was interviewing Rick Jones for that story, though.
Oh, I apologize. It's Peter Parker. There you go.
Oh.
Peter Parker with the Daily Bugle is interviewing Rick Jones about the Hulk. Yeah, that's very cool. JR, it sounds like you've read it. Did you like that cap?
I don't remember much about it, to be honest. I remember reading it because my brother bought it. My brother had it. My brother was a big Hulk fan, but I just don't remember any more than a bearded Rick Jones sitting, in a chair beginning to start to tell the story, and he says something about, what's your name, Parker, was it, or something like it, and that's about all I remember.
It is, Peter. It's Spider-Man related. There you go. Maybe that's why I liked it. Hulk and Spider-Man together. Zach, what is going on? I've got 2 of you in the chat. I've got one.
Oh,
he's a clone, Brad.
I've got a clone of Zach.
Well, there's a reason for that. I had to go pick. I'm committed to your show, Douglas.
What do you do? You're driving now. What's going on?
I gotta go pick up my roommate.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You just got off work.
Yeah,
so
I hear the car noise. Now I hear the car noise.
I hear the car noise. That's funny. So he was eating pizza. Now he's driving. Zach is a multitasker if I've ever heard.
This is guerrilla podcasting at its finest, is what this is.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, let's see here. We've got. Let's take some. We'll read some comments from the YouTubers about 801 that you'd like read, or questions towards us about 801 before we move on to issue 1, volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One thing before we get to that, I wanted to ask your opinions. Dan Slott had a goodbye essay at the very beginning, and one thing that stood out to me was his opening line. Since I was 8 years old, writing Spider-Man has been my dream job. Why would I ever let it go? He doesn't answer that question.
Interestingly enough, I think if you go back down a few sentences, I don't know if he says. I mean, but if you, I know you probably got it.
I've got it right in front of me. What paragraph?
Okay, so I think when he's talking to somebody at the convention or some convention, they said that yours, as some fan told him, that yours is before he was announcing that he was about to leave. He says, so one of the fans says, yours is the only Spider-Man I know. And now he was kind of taken aback by that. And I was thinking, when I read that, I'm wondering if Slott, when he heard that, kind of maybe realized, maybe I've been on this book too long.
No, I didn't.
I don't know. I didn't
gather that at all.
That doesn't seem like a very Slott thing to.
But I know, but it just kind of seems like when you hear somebody like he's been on this book for 10 years, and you get people to come into you as like, this is the only Spider-Man, I'm familiar with, or that I've ever read or know, and stuff like that. And he was kind of felt uncomfortable about that. I don't know if that's something that kind of, he's probably thinking, well, there's other people who've written this Spider-Man besides me, kind of thing. And the fact that he's
Mike, if you had your dream job, would you ever give it up?
Ooh, yeah, but that's the thing.
Would you forego a paycheck of your favorite job so the next guy could have it. I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, I know. I see what you
But
mean.
this is serialized storytelling, Brad. I think at a certain point you know you've got to pass the baton off, and I think that outside forces probably forced him to pass that baton on sooner than he wanted to, because I think he really wanted to beat out Bendis.
I think so too.
I think that he didn't. I think he thought, I'm not going to beat Brian because Brian's never going to stop writing Miles. So I'm just going to give it up. Now that he's done it, and right around the time that he announces that he's giving it up, what does Bendis do? He
quits.
DC.
Yeah,
So,
he goes to write Superman.
I just think that with Slott doing, and look, clearly he was running out of steam.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Talked about this.
Volume 4, number 1.
Yeah. I mean, this last volume was very, very just. It was a slog to get through. I don't think that he was terribly passionate about the character necessarily at that point. I think that it reflected in the storytelling, because I think that that it was so off kilter that it speaks volumes to me that he's both writing a Fantastic Four book and Iron Man at the same time, considering he's been writing Iron Man for the last 3 years.
Yeah,
I don't believe that whole he didn't know Bendis was leaving. I think he's off the book. This is a good chance to move him on. Yeah. It's too rushed at the end for somebody to know 801's my end.
Yeah.
He had plenty of time to set things up, but all of a sudden at the end, it's like, I got to get out of here.
I don't know. Spencer does a pretty good job of cleaning house in one issue. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is too is like I'm kind of the firm believer. I mean, going back to your question, Brad, about if you had your dream job, would you give it up? I'm the firm believer that it's better to quit on a high note than rather just basically just kind of keep on going, drag, like. Going back to an old thing about Seinfeld, for example. I mean, one time that was more like at one time that was the popular thing, and then Seinfeld just upped and quit like after 9 seasons or whatever, because he figured that's enough. If you do any more and you keep going, then after a while, people, it's going to get stale. And whether or not Slott realized that or not, it's definitely the fact that he was on this Spider-Man for so long, and well, technically he's not actually leaving. If you hear the Spider-Geddon rumors that he's still going to be involved in that somehow, there comes a point where you have to kind of like, even if it is something you supposedly like doing, you got to kind of like move on to some other things. I mean, it's not like he's quitting comics; it's more like he's just tackle some other subjects and everything. You got to like. 10 years again is too. I mean, even with Claremont and X-Men, 17 years, for instance, that seemed like after a while,
from my understanding, Chris Claremont was fired. Peter David was fired.
Yeah,
I think the trend is that Dan Slott was fired. Or I mean, I don't think long-term writers hold the job for that long in comics willingly.
Right. Well, Bendis even kind of almost. I mean, if you read Ultimate Spider-Man, people have argued that I know some people would say that Ultimate Spider-Man was never good. So a certain person who will like on this podcast,
we talk about him when he's not even here. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Sorry, George. You'll definitely hear this later, but no. I mean, people would argue that just Ultimate Spider-Man started out great, but then as it went on, it just started going. Again,
when
they got stale after.
When they brought Miles in the 616, it literally derailed the entire title. In my
opinion. It did.
JR, do you think Slott went willingly, or was
No, I think he had a little shove.
Little shove.
I think he had a little shove.
Talk about that a little bit. What do you think? Why do you suspect that?
Well, only because he'd spent so much time telling us that he would never leave and that he'd have to be forced out with a crowbar. I just don't see him. I mean, because sometimes though, if you stay at one job a long time, I think there does come a point in time where you say, you know what, maybe I've done all I can do here. But usually that comes to you gradually. And, he was pretty adamant about saying he was never going to leave.
So, I can imagine Cebulski with a crowbar. There we go.
Yeah. So I mean, he was pretty adamant he wasn't going to leave. The fact that he kind of implied, and maybe I was reading this wrong, that he implied that he kind of jammed Norman Osborn and Carnage together because he wanted to use both of them, but hadn't been able to, and then he crammed them together to get them to use them both before he left. Implied to me that he had ideas for them individually. That could be, I could be wrong, yeah. but basically no. Basically, based on what he said all those years, for all those years, I think he would have stayed until he passed on.
227060 actually brings up a very good point. Slott did admit that one of the reasons he stayed on for as long as he did was because he wanted to get to issue 800. Because you remember, there was that one interview he gave a while back where when it was down to his queen, he says, "Well, I wanted these, wanted to get to reach to this milestone, and then this milestone, and this one, and everything like this." So, and I'm wondering if that kind of maybe reflected in his work, because after Superior Spider-Man was over, and he just kept going and going and going. It's like, if it was just all about just trying to reach a certain, benchmark, then after a while, that's just going to be like, oh, you're just going through emotions. You're not actually, you're not doing this necessarily for any kind of passionate reasons. You're just kind of doing it because, you just want to have some kind of record. Mm-hmm. And that's going to affect it. That's going to affect on his work and everything. I think it did.
All right. I think we're good. Let's move on to the next issue. Volume 5, number 1, Amazing Spider-Man, as reviewed by Mike. Let's go.
Technically, Mike. It's also issue 802.
802,
because they do have legacy numbers now. They put that.
By the way, I love those legacy numbers. I can finally organize my comics.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, before I begin, should I get out the Doc Brown whiteboard again?
Sure, if you'd
because
like.
Because of the way this.
If you need a visual.
Well, no, because this issue does jump around a lot.
Okay, get your whiteboard out. Get your whiteboard.
Okay, get the whiteboard out. All right, so. This is for you folks, because we're going to have to try to organize the timelines of this to try to organize the narrative flow of this thing, because Nick Spencer apparently does not believe in sequential narratives. He believes in nonlinear ones, but for some reason. So, okay.
I think it's really hard to judge based on one issue that he likes nonlinear narratives.
I'm kidding here, Zach. Come on, I'm not. You actually think I'm being.
Some people might take you overly seriously, McNulty, with your giant Oz head.
Some people might call him the
Modak head.
Right. Some people might call him the gangster of love. I call him Mike.
Like Mike.
Oh gosh, I don't know how
I like Mike. I wanna be like.
Okay,
Mike.
So I won't have anything. I don't know if you guys.
Okay,
can see
here we go. Okay, I see a straight line.
So,
not very straight.
We start things off.
That's more like a Marvel line. It is got a little bit of crooked line.
Okay, we'll start off. Okay, we'll start off in the past, like roughly about here. That's how the issue begins.
Remember, we have audio-only listeners, so go ahead.
We have audio-only listeners. This is a treat for visual listeners, though.
Okay, yes.
So we start off.
Though he's not going to edit it to where the audio listeners are going to be able to understand. So, audio listeners, I'm apologizing to you in advance because McNulty insists on using these visual aids. It's kind of like JR.
Well, I've got to give the YouTuber folks a treat.
YouTubers, this is infighting. We're going to get to the review eventually.
Okay. So we start off with a flashback to Sensational Spider-Man Annual #1. For those of you who know what that is, that was a very good issue by Matt Fraction and Salvador LaRocca.
Right.
And the artist here, Ryan Ottley does a really amazing kind of recreation of like the last 2 pages of this thing. But sadly, the goodness has to go away because Peter wakes up at about 5:30 in the morning from the Boomerang playing Call of Duty Latveria at 5, at loud volume saying, "Watch my 6." Nice little reference there because since Boomerang was a member of the Sinister Six. So
I didn't catch that.
Yeah. So why is Fred, our good buddy Fred, aka Boomerang, in Peter Parker's apartment? Well, that goes back to the Free Comic Book Day issue in which Peter and Randy Robinson, while they were apartment hunting, they they finally realized, you know what, the rent in New York City is too dang high. So we got to find the rent is too dang high. We got to find a new guy, and it just so happened that Boomerang was the guy. And of course, you're probably wondering, well, why is Peter letting a known supervillain stay at their place? Well, it's best because he can keep an eye on him to see what kind of nefarious things he was up to. Plus, they need the money.
By the way, was this a reveal that Spider-Man knew he was Fred?
Oh, I think he's already known he was Fred.
I didn't gather that from the Free Comic Book issue that he knew he was a villain.
Well, in the last issue of Superior Foes of Spider-Man, it's implied that he was talking to Fred in the bar there, and he kind of realized,
Okay.
So he kind of, bless, Fred's got a record. I mean, yeah. So the problem, the thing is that Fred being a villain isn't necessarily the problem. The problem is he's that guy. Mm-hmm. We all know who that guy is, right? I mean, he's the one who goes to the gets the box of cereal, pours the thing, and it finishes off the cereals, but then decides to put the cereal box back in the cupboard.
That guy
with nothing in it. Yeah. My sister's one of my sister's ex-boyfriends was that guy when he basically ate all of our Thanksgiving dinner leftovers, and at the day after Thanksgiving for breakfast.
You know what he needs? A Sam Raimi Aunt May smack like on Norman. There you go, right there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was about to say, considering how Thanksgiving leftovers taste, sometimes maybe get you a favor.
Well, I don't know, maybe so, but his ass was dumped shortly afterwards.
Mashed potatoes are always good.
That's true.
But yeah,
depends on if they're instant or not.
But Fred is, Fred's kind of a jerk. He's just he's even got this thing where he tortures him, like, oh, I have a Cheeto left. It's the only one. You can share it, and he's just like holding it out, and Peter's just ready to smack this guy, but Randy's like, hey, I know, hey, he's kind of cool. We hung out. We were chatting up some girls at the bar and everything like this. He's got some great Spider-Man stories, and which of course makes Fred, when he tells him, it makes himself look all good and stuff, and then Randy says, besides, you got to be up for this press conference anyway. He says, oh, but I thought that was Tuesdays, next Tuesday. He says, Peter, this is next. What Tuesday do you think this is? It's like the other Tuesday. And they're like, so after that, we then, to go back to our little timeline. Oh, by the way, I forgot to little mention here. We were this part where I was talking about the apartments, like right around here, roughly around here. So we go ahead a couple hours later to probably right about here. And where we find out that there is an alien invasion going on. Yes, this is the second Spider-Man comic in which we have when aliens attack. And you've got the Avengers, you've got the X-Men, you've got two halves of the Fantastic Four. The Defenders are there. And because this is written by Ryan Ottley of Invincible fame, the aliens are very squishy and blow up into nice little green goop, and everything else. And they're,
was that a theme in Invincible?
Oh, very much so.
I never read Invincible. Was it good?
Yes.
Invincible, yeah, it's very good, but in terms of the level of violence, let's say there's a lot of bodily fluids that basically fly everywhere.
Oh, great. That's a roaring endorsement if I've ever heard one, Mike.
No, it did, but seriously, it is very good. It's just, it's not,
it's good. It's just, there's a lot of bodily fluids. If you're squeamish, apparently you can't read it.
Well,
yeah. It's not.
I was just thinking the other day, I need more bodily fluids in my comics. I'm paying $4. I want fluids, damn it.
It was written by Robert Kirkman, of Walking Dead fame. So figure it out.
Or Marvel Team Up Volume 3 fame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Nobody gives a shit about Marvel Team Up Volume 3, Douglas.
I do. Right. I like that book. Yeah, Dark Mark's with me.
Midnight in it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Dude. Remember him coming home to Mary Jane? That one. Never mind.
Nope. The mainstream public doesn't know about Marvel Team Up Volume 3 written by Robert Kirkman is my point.
They'll know after I do my cobwebs on it. How's that?
Oh, there you go. They'll know now.
Okay. So
whatever Judas Traveler.
Right.
Hey, I don't know Judas Traveler. You can make fun of his ass all day long.
Okay.
We do.
We do, yeah.
So this invasion is happening. The Avengers and everybody else is like, where are these guys coming from? It's like everything is. And then Spidey comes in and tells this really bad joke that he's workshopped like about, oh, I'm their friend. He says, I'm sort of friend. He says, just because I'm kicking somebody doesn't mean I'm not friendly and everything. But all the heroes are kind of giving him this really dirty look. Why? Well, back to the whiteboard, because we go back, a couple of weeks earlier, before this, right about roughly here. Okay. So we see that a few weeks earlier, Spider-Man was responding to a bank robbery call. And so he gets there and he's about to stop the bank robbers when all of a sudden the vault opens and the Kingpin's there, along with a whole press regalia with a banner that says, congratulations. And Kingpin's like, oh, there's my buddy Spider-Man. He says, how are you doing, buddy, old pal? And, you've been doing so great for the city. You've been doing so great for everybody in New York. I'm giving you this key to the city, because Kingpin in this is actually now the newly elected mayor of New York. And so he's gives Spider-Man the key to the city. And Spider-Man's like, wait a second. There's something up here. I've seen It's a Wonderful Life. I know there's something wrong. You've up to something, Fisk, and I'm gonna, he's gonna jet. And so Spider-Man leaves, and the press secretary even asks Fisk, like, why are you doing this? Why are you kind of buttering up? And the Kingpin's plan is basically says, well, there's two kinds of people. There's those who are really independent and those who tell incessant, stupid jokes to try to get attention. And he says that Spider-Man is one of these guys who likes to try to win the respect and approval of his peers. And if I basically make it look like that I'm the only one who endorses him, where I'm going against these other superheroes, they're going to turn on him. And they're thinking, oh, you're just some kind of like, because Kingpin's all buddy up with you, and he's not buddy up with us, and we're going to, turn on it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting way of
getting at your enemy. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically like ruining his public images by guilt by association kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go back to, back to this. We go back to here a little bit.
How many lines are on your timeline? I see 4 in your video.
There's 4 now, so we're
going 4 points in time.
You have to go around here, roughly there. Okay.
Back when Quesada wrote it, it was 1 moment in time. You got 4 moments going.
4 moments in time.
Well,
great, go ahead.
So we go back to that fight. And Daredevil's even trying to give him a dirty look, although I'm not sure how that's possible considering he's blind. But,
maybe not Daredevil. Yeah,
it's a dirty expression.
It's a dirty expression. Yeah,
he puts his whole face in it.
Yeah, and Spider-Man's like, but we went out to pizza one time where you just sat there and smelled it, but it's great. And then Johnny, but the only buddy he's really got is Johnny Storm, who basically quotes one of the famous Star Wars lines, because again, we got to have a reminder that Disney and Lucasfilm are owned, Marvel and Lucasfilm are owned by Disney now, so we got to have that little thing in there. So he quotes the thing, and as he's quoting he doesn't like you, and I don't like you either, and all this stuff. One of the aliens jumps down Johnny's throat.
I didn't get that. That was a Star Wars. That's Chewbacca and Han Solo.
No, it's when Luke Skywalker first walks into the bar, and that one guy is like,
that's it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, one of the aliens jumps down. One of the aliens does like a face hugger thing on Johnny, on the Human Torch, and like starts going down throats. But then,
by the way, Johnny is the face hugging aliens. Remember Elijah?
Oh yes.
His Skrull wife. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, we go back from this point.
Oh my gosh, adding another line to the timeline.
Yeah, where this is a couple hours later, we'll just go right about here.
How many lines on the timeline now? What?
1, 2, 3, 6.
Six different points of time on your
6 different points of time on this chart. Okay. We go to the press conference.
Okay.
And basically it's at Empire State University, and we get introduced to Cindy Lawton, or Cindy Not Moon, as I would like to call her. Well, Cindy Not Moon is basically making, and while before this thing happens, Peter's like talking about, I've got this cushy job at the Daily Bugle and everything, and even got this nice little massage chair, and I've got all the people like all praising his work on this editor as a science editor and everything. It's like everything's kind of great. Well, Cindy Not Moon is standing up on the stage, and she's going to be talking about. and she's going to be talking about a really serious subject that's plaguing universities, and that is academic plagiarism. And I love how she brings up like the people who have committed the academic plagiarism in the Marvel universe, including the one person who
don't forget about Ricky London and Mephisto.
Oh, Ricky London and Mephisto, yeah. So they officially know that the devil exists in the Marvel universe.
Ricky London, who sold his soul to the Dark Lord Mephisto in exchange for a passing LSAT score. Nice.
Yep.
Don't forget.
Yeah. Or the person who was who got their Nobel Prize laureate winning cell from an alternate dimension to write the paper for her. I thought that was
that was just funny.
Mm-hmm.
That was just great. I mean,
and the name of the program is called The Watcher.
Watcher, yeah, it's a Watcher. Now the thing is, people think there are plagiarism algorithm programs that actually do exist. Not as advanced as this one, but so as she's introducing this thing, she's like, "Hey, we have one of our special guest alumni here." Peter Parker, from the co-founder of Parker Industries and the science editor for the book. Come on up here, Peter, and
come on down.
Come on up. Well, come on. Yes, now, the thing is, a little bit of a context here. Back in Superior Spider-Man, you may remember that while Doc Ock was Peter Parker, he was upset over how Peter did not have an advanced degree like him. So he went back to school and got himself a PhD.
Yep.
And when Peter Parker eventually got his body back and found this out, what was the paragon of responsibility's reaction to this?
Yeah, let's start a company.
yeah, that's weird.
Let's start a company.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, not like start a company
of nothing.
Yeah, with the company that Otto built.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, well, you might as well take advantage of this. It's like
finders keepers.
Yeah, hey, if other guys can build their career off of false pretenses, like a certain comic book writer, which we will not name, why can't I?
Bam!
But yeah, so Peter's like, oh, okay. So back after that little context, so he goes up on stage and types up as like, we'll bring up one of your papers, and it's some kind of thing it's basically a thing about chaos theory. Peter realizes right away.
Story about the last 10 years, yeah.
Yeah. Peter kind of realizes right away that he's like, oh no. And sure enough, Watcher brings it up and essentially says that this paper is written by Otto Octavius. There's no doubt about it. It's 100% confirmation.
How long ago did Otto write that paper in this time? How many years has Peter fraudulently lived off of that degree?
Oh,
how many years
in the comic or in the comic?
In our time, how long?
4 years, folks.
4 years he's let that go in our time.
I like to say that this is a con that this particular podcast has been addressing for those 4 years as well.
Yes, indeed.
You know, another thing that we've mentioned also, Otto killed the dude. Never.
Oh yeah.
Never mentions. Well, he came back, didn't he? In the clone stuff.
Clone conspiracy.
Yeah.
Because you demanded it.
Right.
Anyway, he never addresses that. Anyway, it's nice for Spencer to finally, after 4 years, address this. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Peter is basically caught supposedly accused is basically plagiarism.
Yep.
Even though he didn't do it, he can't exactly reveal the truth because, let's face it, the truth kind of sounds stupid if he didn't try to explain the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just the way thing. So he's just stammers like, well, you got to give me a chance. And Cindy Notmoon's like, nope. We've already convened a review board. And effective immediately, your standing at this university is now revoked. So all this stuff, and of course,
come back no more.
Nope. And Peter's like, even the narration, he goes, no, not the respect of my peers. He's like, and so then Peter later goes to
real quick, Mike, to address this point. It's very odd as a Spider fan, to root for Peter Parker to fail, and we've been rooting for this to happen because it's so out of character.
Well, I'm going to get to that point.
Okay, go ahead.
As, but so anyway, he goes later on. He goes off to meet. Now, if you're the reason why I'm not putting out the whiteboard at this point because things are now going in chronological order now. So he goes off to see Mary Jane. At this cafe to kind of explain to her. She just kind of laughs about this whole situation.
It's a great reaction.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. You skipped the entire Robbie firing.
Yeah, the sexy chair.
That's right. I
The
forgot.
sexy chair.
The other big, because the other big thing that happens is Robbie basically tells him you're fired, and then Peter's like, oh, thing. And it's not like, and Robbie's not, and the thing what makes it worse is Robbie's not angry. He's disappointed, but he's not. And he gives it actually a pretty good reason. He says, "Look, we cannot afford, even though you didn't write this thing for the pub paper, we cannot afford to have somebody on our editorial staff accused of plagiarism, especially in the times we're in with nobody reads
when newspapers don't sell. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, so we have to. Integrity is what we stand by. So we can't afford to have you on." He says, "But I'm sure one of these days." We will sit down together and have a nice beer and everything. You can explain it, and I will be able to understand it because
Robbie knows.
may not know you're Spider-Man.
Exactly, Robbie knows. Robbie knows.
Robbie told. I mean, yeah, it's a little nudge, wink, wink, and then Peter's like, "Well, do I get the sexy chair?" It's like, "It's the Bugle sexy chair now." It's like,
that was funny.
And so. Yeah, so
Peter's paid with the company credit card, so therefore it's
so now Peter goes back to the diner, and MJ kind of laughs at this whole situation, and while he is talking to MJ, he's reflecting about, oh man, here's another thing I screwed up was this whole relationship I had with her. Everything was fine, and then she decided for reasons to basically decide to leave me because she figured, oh, my family was threatened, and I don't like the fact that you're kind of going out, putting yourself in danger, even though I dated a firefighter once who did kind of the same thing and blah, blah, blah.
Pedro, because that's not on the nose at all.
No,
let's say the firefighter, Pedro.
What was the name of the actor that she banged?
Bobby Carr. Yeah.
He was in bed, dude. He was in bed.
No.
Come on.
If you remember, she kind of gave him the cold shoulder when they were going on that airplane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she was in the bed. I mean, come on. Okay.
Yeah, but he was like, so Peter's going off about this and says, and now it feels like, we're still friends, but it feels like something's missing. And why do I keep looking at her hand? Like there's supposed to be some ring on this hand,
I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that.
That's why you get the close up of their hand there.
I need to read this book with Mike over my shoulder. I didn't get the Star Wars book, and I didn't get the ring on the finger. Ooh, that's good.
There's no good.
Deliberate. That's good.
It's good.
It's good.
Does Brad does Brad need to just everything spelled out for him? Apparently so.
I guess so. Yeah, but as this is going on, we get a news broadcast. Yes. As this is going on, there's a news broadcast, and because you didn't demand it, we get the return of Shajani Joffrey.
Real quick.
Being interviewed. Yeah, he's being interviewed.
22 on YouTube chat says, as the panel of The Ring appears on the radio in the diner is Beyonce's song, Put a Ring on It.
Yeah.
You should have put a ring on it.
Oh, the single ladies. Oh, the single ladies. Oh. Put your hands up in the panel. Oops, sorry. Put your hands up in the panel. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But so Johnny Joffrey is being interviewed on television, basically saying, because she's the co-founder of Parker Industries, and we all remember how she was basically trying to undermine the company, even working with supervillains because she thought Peter was an idiot, and Peter basically fired her ironically for something she didn't do. Well, she's now on TV saying, was the real brains behind Parker Industries, and all the inventions that he did, those were my ideas. So I'm taking him to court for him,
what money?
Yeah. And she's
he lives with an ex-con or a con.
Yeah. So now he's like, oh man, this can't get any worse. And then MJ's like, what does Aunt May say about this?
Oh yeah.
And then that's when he really panics, and he goes back home and he's trying to hide the Daily Bugle newspaper, hoping she hasn't seen it. And he's like, hey, Aunt May, you want to see that new Liam Neeson movie and everything? It's basically the same plot of every other Liam Neeson movie. And, and so But the thing is, Aunt May already figured this out because she's got an app. Basically, so that his name pops up as a news.
Even 70-year-old Aunt May does not get news from a newspaper anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Sonny, it's more like 922 years old, but yes.
And we get this wonderful scene where she essentially tells Peter, like, all the time, like, you know what, no matter what you've done in the past, I've always been proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the one time I'm actually ashamed of you. Because even though Doc Ock is a supervillain and stuff, you took credit for another person's work, and your Uncle Ben and I raised you better than that. And the fact that you can't still can't take responsibility for this thing. And
there's no mentioning of J. Jonah Jameson Sr.
No.
That's Uncle Ben.
Yeah. So she's just
this would be made a lot easier if she would effing know he's Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I know, right? Peter doesn't want to still detest her. And we also finally we get over effective because this whole thing is narrated from his perspective. He goes, the thing is though, he kind of realizes she's kind of right. Because he's thinking, even though I'm not guilty of plagiarism, what did I do when I found out I had a degree? And what did I do when I even took advantage of the company thing? It says, and as he's thinking this, we get a flashback of the time he let the burglar escape.
I also like that he says, quote, I face down goblins, juggernauts, and beyonders. Secret wars, JR, secret wars.
Yes.
That's why he went down 2-letter grades immediately.
Oh,
yeah.
For JR.
But that triggered me.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The irony is that Peter actually knows about chaos theory, or the dynamics of it from watching Doc Ock. And that's how, when we go back, back here.
How many lines on the chart now?
Oh, it's about 7. So we're back here again. Okay. So after that, Peter kind of recognizes there's a pattern to these aliens coming through like this teleport thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, so he's going to try to take a chance and just kind of leap up at it. And then while he's doing this, while he's doing that, Black Cat is fighting alongside him. She's like, hey, Spider, where are you going? Yes, folks, she's a good guy again. And Peter's like, yes. And Peter's like, well, Black Cat, if I'm not back yet, there's George.
Whoa, hold on. George, what's up?
Holy crap!
George.
Look at all the people in here.
Oh, I don't know. We're just in the final stages of the recap of this issue.
George can join us for the pros and cons of ASM 1 now.
Yes, it's just about ready to wrap up.
George, to catch you up, we just got to the part with the bye Felicia moment.
Yes, the bye Felicia.
Bye, Felicia.
So go ahead, Mike. Yeah. Take us to bye Felicia.
He goes to does the Friday reference. He's going into the light, and he's thinking, you know what? This is a pretty good way to go out. I think, maybe I screwed up and everything, but and as he's going up in the light, he goes smack right in the side of a window.
Yeah.
Because it turns out these aren't aliens. This is all orchestrated by the true star of Spider-Man Far From Home, Mysterio.
No, don't bring that up. No.
I know, I had to.
By the way, the YouTube chat is going nuts. George is back. Welcome back, George.
Yeah.
They've been asking where you've been all night.
Where have you? Yeah, they're missing you.
Well, I had D&D to get to. I'm sorry.
Oh yes.
Real quick, Mike. What did you think of the bye Felicia moment?
I thought it was great. My life was complete at that moment.
Ashley, your thoughts on bye Felicia?
I loved it, but Felicia needs to smack Peter next time she sees him because he deserves it.
Yeah.
Yes. So
George,
anyway,
did you like the Friday Ice Cube reference?
Honestly, I don't remember it because I was focused on most of the other stuff that was going on.
Yeah,
I guess there's a lot to unpack in this issue, and there's a lot of stuff that I mean, the entire thing I was like, it's humorous without being like copycatty off TV shows.
Oh yeah.
It's like original, just funny stuff, and it sounded like stuff Spider-Man would say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And so I mean, there were. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, but I was going to say that after Spider-Man quickly beats Mysterio up,
Yeah.
And Mysterio, it webs him up, and Mysterio's talking about how, like, oh, you know, I was trying to do something different because I was tired of doing the same old thing and stuff. And Spider's like, yeah, I kind of know what that's like. Interestingly enough. And so then we go to a scene where Peter is basically telling somebody, essentially saying that for, you know, while I know we haven't things worked out with us and everything, but you know what? I kind of need you. I mean, my life I need something. I mean, my life just doesn't feel kind of complete and everything. And we find out it's Mary Jane he's talking to, and she kisses him.
Yes.
And she's basically saying that, you know, hey, what are you talking about? This has always been our story.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. But wait, folks, we're not done. We get to the trial of Mysterio, where he goes into his little backstory. He goes into a monologue. He's decided to defend himself in full costume, I might add, at his own hearing.
Because comics.
Yes. Even the judge thinking this guy is just like, oh my gosh, I got to deal with. He's probably dealing with this kind of stuff all the time. He's just like, oh my gosh, Mysterio, you know, Mr. Quinn Beck, I know you tried to do your own counsel, but you know, and he's like, but Quinn Beck is like going through this whole thing, like, no, I must monologue, and who should walk in but another one of Spencer's beloved creations is Janice Lincoln.
Yeah.
Who the Beetle, who is also Tombstone's daughter. But the thing is, because she's also a mob lawyer, and so she's in there and she's basically trying to argue that Mysterio is like, basically arguing that he's insane, which, given the fact he's represented himself in court in full costume and monologuing, it's probably not that difficult. But as she's saying this, things get a little dark and gross, and because Janice Lincoln starts vomiting up roaches and bugs, and it just starts filling up this courtroom, and Mysterio is just freaking out. He's like, oh my gosh. And we get the appearance of a guy who's dressed like Scarecrow from the Batman Arkham games, but he's got this like kind of this wooden blue thing and stuff, and it's very clear that it's kind of very much implied that this guy is a demon of some sort or something demonic about him.
Jack pointed out he bears a really strong resemblance to some Egyptian god. I can't remember which one.
You know,
you
know who I thought it looked like when I first saw it? Remember in the 90s, there was an X-Men that had these things on its shoulder. What was that character's name? I can't think of it. They came from his gut. And Maggot. He looked like Maggot from X-Men. But I'm sure it's not that. But
no, but he's kind of,
because there's like two big maggots by his feet in that
yeah, like centipedes, and there's rats and everything. Yeah. And it's very much implied that, if you recall, there was this really odd story in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Well, back up a little bit. There's a thing in Daredevil where Mysterio killed himself. And there's a really odd, like, Peter David's Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man story where Mysterio came back as sort of like this agent of hell or whatever. It was very much implied that, and it was actually interesting enough written before One More Day. So it was really kind of,
it was supposed to be a red herring towards Mysterio.
Yeah.
Or Mephisto.
Yeah.
And,
hey, we're back. What happened?
You left.
I did. It just
it just kicked your ass out.
I don't think YouTube liked me talking about Maggot from the 90s. Is what
Apparently
no,
but
no one does.
Okay, go ahead.
I specifically asked him about that when we interviewed him for Ben Riley's Squad Spider over on Spidey Dude.
Who?
Peter David.
Oh, okay.
And he said that was actually intentional, that he was designing that as a red herring, that if they wanted to use a plot, make it more related to a Spider-Man story, that was something that they could pick up on. It's weird because he's currently running with this narrative that Mephisto and Mysterio are kind of somewhat related in some weird fashion way in Ben Riley right now. And then they have this story.
Yeah, and so the thing is, it's the strong implication, and the thing is, when Dan Slott came back on the book, and Mysterio was there, it's like, well, wasn't he supposed to be an agent of hell? It's like, oh no, he faked his whole death because that's Mysterio. Well, this is very much implying that no, Mysterio did in fact die, did in fact go to some hell, and this is his patron. And he apparently, this guy, whoever this is, has like he's got an in for Spider-Man, and he knows he's Peter Parker, and he wants Mysterio to kind of like work him over. Mysterio's like, no, I am. He says, oh, you better, he's like, I'm keeping an eye out. You need to, you need to do that. This is just a reminder and everything. And I even arranged for Janice Lincoln to kind of get here and stuff. And so it's really kind of creepy. And as he leaves and Mysterio is being swarmed over by all the bugs and rats and worms and everything. And he goes, no, he's freaking out on the stand. It's suddenly everything goes back to normal. And they're like, oh yeah. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, he's clearly insane. Well, yeah, you made your case, Miss Lincoln. We'll go into the psychiatric ward and everything. And then Janice Lincoln goes, wow, you really are a good actor. That was great. And he's like,
but that was great.
And then finally we go back to Peter Parker and Cindy Not Moon at the university. She's like, okay, well, this whole thing about your PhD, we decided the review board has rescinded it, but there was somebody who decided to give you one more chance, or one last chance, as we will. And so he's like, well, who's that could be? And we see that his new professor is Dr. Connors in his pure lizard form. He says, welcome. Yeah, it's like, and so everyone's hoping that please don't eat me for getting a bad grade and everything like this. So yeah, again, I guess ESU, not only did they accept accredited work by supervillains, they accept actual villains as teachers in this place. But I guess it's just gone downhill.
Does Connors know Peter is Spider-Man? Good question. I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. No, but he's like things, But anyway,
that is the end of the issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike, let's get your grade first, and we'll go around the horn. What's your grade, sir?
Well, it pains me to say it, but I'm going to have to give it a minus. An A minus. It's not a perfect A, but it's close enough.
Okay.
But yeah.
George, what is your grade? I want to hear this.
No, this is an A plus.
And A plus.
And I had said this back on.
Wow.
I had said this back on Facebook, and I think I may have been talking to Javi. I can't remember for sure, but I said, I haven't been actually like this happy with the Spider-Man comic since that Matt Fraction annual, where like the guy, was it an FBI agent or whatever?
Yeah.
Was hitting on Mary Jane, and Mary Jane was like, he's my husband. You're just some dude. You know? And like, I mean, because that was a fantastic story. I think that was the last one I liked before everything completely went to shit for a decade.
That was what they were referencing in the first issue here.
We harkened back to it in this issue. And so, it hit all the beats. It hit everything that I needed it to hit. And I wrote this on the Crawl Space website, and I've talked about it on Facebook. But I never. I mean, you guys have listened to me. I mean, how long have I been jaded about Spider-Man?
Oh yeah, a long time.
As long as I've known you.
Exactly. And that's at least 3 years for Ashley, but it's been longer than that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Since Methuselah was a small child.
By the way, Hornacek says he hears George's grade and falls onto floor.
The bodies are dropping, George.
And so for the first time, in literally over 10 years, I was like, this is okay, fine. There was so much meta in here. Well, you know what? We'll unpack it later. I'm just giving the grades. I'm sorry.
We're going to go pros eventually. Chi-Town, what's your grade?
A plus.
A plus. It's that Mary Jane kiss, I know.
Oh, it's the Mary Jane kiss. And, well, we'll get to the pros, but there's much more than just MJ in there.
Ashley, your grade?
B plus.
B plus. Dark Mark?
A.
A. Zach?
D.
No.
He's kidding.
Okay,
he's
totally through professionally. We're through.
No, you didn't do it right. We are done professionally.
Zach, your grade?
My real grade, for the record, is an A minus.
A minus. JR.
Oh, I'm worried now.
Oh, here we go.
C plus.
Oh!
For all of my Twitch friends, not like this. Not like this.
Okay. My grade, A out of me. Not plus, not minus, right down the middle, A. Okay, Mike, your biggest pros.
Well, I'm not going to go to the obvious one with the MJ thing.
But it is a big plus.
Yeah, it is a big plus. what really, I mean, initially when I was reading this, I initially started out with the whole like Boomerang is a roommate and everything else. Like, okay, this is fine, everything. What sent it to excellence was that whole bit about where we finally get actions, and to quote, George, in our D&D sessions, actions have consequence for once. And that the whole whole thing with the degree and how Spencer linked that back to Spider-Man's like fault as like it's not that he fails to do the wrong, he does the wrong thing, it's that he fails to do the right thing as his biggest sin, and how it links back to the uncle failure to stop the burglar.
Yes,
that whole bit, that was, to me, that's what sent it to excellence, because it shows it took something was quite possibly, and this is one of many things Slott didn't do right, I think, in the book, but this was one of the big ones. And I know you and I, George, we've been beating this thing over and over again about how the fact that everything that Peter didn't earn one bit of success that he supposedly had in Slott's run.
Yep.
And the biggest part of that is that Peter never addressed it himself.
Exactly.
Ever.
It's like
never even thought about it.
Yeah, it was like the whole thing was just like, that everything, he didn't earn the doctorate, didn't earn the business, but he just acted like, he did. And even the justification for it, when people brought this up, I think to Slott, Dan Slott in the past, it's like, well, it's very much like him being bitten by the spider, isn't it?
No,
it's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. It's a ridiculous thing about thing. So Spencer comes in here and says, no, wait a second. This is a guy who beats himself over something, this is somebody who would not, take credit for something that he did do. And the fact that he allowed this to happen. So he's using that. He didn't just like erase it. And he used this as a springboard to launch into other stories. This is how you actually do a kind of a Parker Luck scenario. It's not actually not Peter's fault, but the fault lies in the fact that he didn't do something about it. And so now everything's coming back. Everything's kind of snowballing and everything like this. Like and so and it makes you kind of interested. Okay. Cause he's got a launching pad thing. So he's got to go back. Yeah, you cost a Daily Bugle job and everything, but he goes back and he has to go back, try to actually legitimately earn something. You got the Sajani Joffrey thing, doing the whole potentially a court thing involved in there too, because try to sue him, take advantage of that. So it's actually for once, it's presented in a again, it's showing that it's the Parker Luck scenario done right for once, and the fact that Aunt May was upset with him too. That was a really great scene.
I don't envy Spencer's job of cleaning this up, and he did such a good job.
Oh, he did.
He got a lot done in this issue.
I mean, this was amazing how much I said in our Crawl Space Facebook group. It's like he took a dustpan and a broom and just started cleaning it. Like, let me get this mess up out of this corner. Let me get this mess. Oh, the dog pooped here. Let me fix this. I mean, it's amazing what he was able to do in one issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't get over it. The Mary Jane thing, the diploma, the responsibility that he's lacking is just amazing.
He took complete ownership of this book and of this run.
He had a lot to clean up, and he did it like a pro.
I haven't seen this smooth of a transition from one run to the next, probably since the 90s.
And what?
Well, like going from Michelini to James DeMatteis before the Clone Saga. Going from Life Theft to the Pursuit storyline, because it just basically took the concept and picked up where that story left off. Back in when you look at the Stern to Falco run, that's a pretty seamless transition. There's been good transitions in the past, and that's part of what made One More Day to Brand New Day so abrupt, is that it was just not a smooth transition. Right. The story was such garbage and nothing was addressed afterwards.
Do you remember, real quick, Spidey, because we talked about this on the podcast a lot, we were like, it will take years for a competent writer to come in and fix this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And boy, were we wrong.
Oh, yeah. and the fact that it was written by the guy who did Secret Empire. is
yeah, but this is also written by the guy that wrote the Superior Foes.
Yeah.
I
mean, remember we were saying on this thing that Nick Spencer was toxic after Secret Empire. I mean, this is very much so.
He's not after this.
Not anymore now. Yeah, he's redeemed himself.
But
basically.
I also read somewhere that Spencer had went back and reread most, if not every issue of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
He also mentioned specifically that J.M.D. Mateus was his favorite Spider-Man writer. So you get the most character-driven writer in Spider-Man's history, arguably. Guy that would do psychological studies of Spider-Man and his world. And he got into the head of the character. I think George is going to mention this in a minute, but that scene where he's talking with who we find out to be Mary Jane felt right. This felt like Spider-Man for the first time in 10 years.
Real quick, the YouTubers are cracking me up. Bernardo, after JR's grade, he goes, what the F? And who else? What was another one that was said? It's Bernardo again. Look at George. He's so happy.
Oh, you think I'm happy now? You guys should have seen me. Thursday.
Yeah, dude.
And the people that are in Facebook chat with us, people that are
Discord thing, I was on with
the review staff and our admin chat and like the Discord. You should have, guys. Have you ever seen me like that?
No.
Oh yeah, you were on the moon.
I was surprised.
I missed this version of
the last time I saw George happy about a Spider-Man book is when I recommended Superior Foes to him.
That's true.
He was like, "All right, I'll try it," and you're like, "This is hysterical."
That's true. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that was the last time.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So pros. We haven't heard from Mark in a while. What's some big pros out of Mark?
Well, you know me. I love bad villains. I'll take this Mysterio every issue for the next 10 years. Mysterio does not take notes.
Yes, that's right. Mysterio. Yeah, the fact that he was inspired to become, a screenwriter from watching Splash.
That was funny. That was funny. What's some other pros, Mark? What else did you like?
Well, there's the obvious there, and I also like. I love those bad villains. I just can't get past that. I like bringing Kingpin back as a Spider-Man villain.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. More.
That's where he belongs. He can share him with Daredevil, but that's where he belongs.
Yeah. What the obvious is Mary Jane, right? What's your thoughts on the kiss and
Mary Jane?
Well, I figured that's Chi-Town Spidey's thing. He's waiting patiently.
Here, let's go to Chi-Town. Chi-Town, your biggest pro. I guess I know what it is. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, that last page, and when I saw that, I immediately thought of Zach saying "finally." So Zach, can I hear a "finally" from you?
Finally.
Thank you. So that's my biggest pro. But Peter taking accountability, especially for the fraudulent doctorate degree. Yes, and Aunt May just being disappointed in him. Not like after Parker Industries fell flat. She's like, okay, don't worry about it. Whatnot. And it's only my husband's name that the foundation that you own. Not a big deal. But this felt real. I mean, it felt so real. Like, I'm disappointed in you, Peter. And that panel right there, just like that hurt Peter. That hurt Peter than any supervillain.
That's his
whatever
mom,
he
man.
faced. Yeah,
his mom. You don't want your mom disappointed in you.
I will say this: that is the best Aunt May. That's the biggest justifiable Aunt May scene I may have seen since JMS run.
JMS when she found out, right?
Because think about it. Because I saw some people online object to how hard Aunt May went on Peter over that, and I was like, listen, if you've read Spider-Man comics over the decades, then you'll know Aunt May has gone hard on Peter before.
Remember when he dropped out of college?
Oh yeah. I mean,
talk to the boy.
She has taken him to the woodshed a lot before. Even there was even that one point. Remember I can't remember if it was Stern or DeFalco's run, the Nathan Lubinsky thing, where they stopped talking for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they just and so here's the thing with Aunt May, all the stuff that you're having like people may have a problem with, like, and I guess we'll get to that in the cons, but like, like just real quick, the Daredevil stuff, the Torch stuff, the Aunt May stuff, this is stuff that will get resolved.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have good character moments along the way when it happens, and everyone's going to be in character.
Yes.
George, I talked to you this on text. Isn't it nice to see a Spider-Man that wasn't rescued by the other heroes? He was willing to take the leap of faith to fight the bad guys, and it was Mysterio. He did it.
It's and I said this on Facebook. It's almost like Spencer was listening to the podcast and was making a list to say every damn thing we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, he's like, okay, do it. Yep, got that in there. Yep, got that in there. Got that one covered. Yeah, this one's going to take a while, but I'm working on it. Give me a few. Okay, well, I'll get to that. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Amazing.
I'm gonna point something out. I think Nick Lowe does deserve some credit for this.
He does. As much crap as we've given him, you absolutely have to give him credit on that.
I think this is the first time that Nick Lowe has been able to put his stamp on as an editor, because I think he felt like he couldn't really stamp because he was brought in while Slott's the writer, and I think the inmates were running the asylum, so to speak. I think that there is a good collaborative effort between Nick Lowe and Nick Spencer, where I think Nick Lowe is man enough, metaphorically speaking, to acknowledge that there was flaws in Slott's run, and let's address them. And I think Spencer.
How could you not think that? I mean, like, literally every problem. I'm like, oh.
It looks like.
Let me show you my old face.
Oh no!
Oh! I gotta get off that camera.
And the fact that Spencer wrote "This is my story" and then cut to MJ, this is our story.
Yeah.
It felt right. I haven't been excited to pick up Amazing Spider-Man comic book since JMS. That was it.
Yeah.
I have a question for everybody.
Okay, Mark, what's up?
When you were reading and you got to that spot where it's just Peter and he's saying, "It's time I fill the void," and he's talking to somebody, did everybody else think you're going to turn a page and it was going to be Felicia or somebody else?
I didn't think that.
No.
Well, boy, talk about pulling the legs out if it was any other girl but Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, would that just tank the book for us?
If it had been Felicia, maybe not.
It wouldn't have felt real. Every beat would have been.
That's not the kind of relationship they have where he goes and just kind of like suddenly spills his heart out to her. I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't the conversations they have, and that's not what would start their relationship.
Yeah.
Speaking
just
about
the way he said it, just the way we've been through so much together. Like his reference, like all of that. I just knew it was MJ, and then I saw the Tiger reference.
What if it would have been Gwen Stacy?
What?
What if it would have that would have been a good last page.
Gwen.
What if it was
I've got even worse suggestions.
Carly Cooper.
What if it was Carly Cooper?
Can you imagine, George? That would have totally changed your opinion of the book, wouldn't it?
Probably. not gonna lie.
Look, the only way you could have done this without Mary Jane would be if it was Deb Whitman. Then everybody.
Shut up, Mark.
All right, what's JR thinking? He's got to have some.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, JR. Yeah, I'm saving JR for the cons. We're still pros.
You know what? Hang on a second, JR. Have you ever even heard of me being this happy? Even as far back as you've known me. Which goes back to 2000.
When Mackie got replaced.
That's true. That's right. I was. You're right.
JR, let's hear some pros out of you. You gave it a C, so there's got to be something. C plus. I'm sorry.
C plus. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like I told you in my text. There's parts I absolutely despised, and then there's parts that intrigued me.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to be intrigued, to be honest.
That's good.
Yeah. The parts that I liked was, I've said it before, Mysterio is my favorite B villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not entirely sure why, but he just is. And the idea, even though my cynical part says, yeah, they're giving him a big role because guess what? He's going to be the villain in, Far From Home, and we've got to have another one of these damn tie-ins with the movies. But I'm actually glad to see Mysterio get a major story. I'm kind of glad to see it tie in with the fact that he was quote unquote dead. I mean, I was willing to accept the fact that he's the master of illusion. He just faked it. I was willing to accept that because Kevin Smith killing him was so effing stupid that I didn't care that the resolution made sense, just that it was resolved, like when Doc Ock was killed and then he was revived by mystical ninjas, it was like
justify the means of that one.
Exactly. It was like, just bring Doc Ock back. I don't care,
But you didn't like that fantastic replacement character, Carolyn Trainer?
Fantastic being the operative word there, I'm sure. Right?
It's like anything else. It's like as a temporary character, as something different. Yes. As a permanent replacement, which is what was intended originally. No. No, how do you replace Dr. Octopus? Maybe if you want to give the original a rest, but I mean, they were, the Osborns were both, like I think I said in one of my articles, the Osborns were both dead and Octopus was dead. And it's like, who the heck were Spider-Man's villains going to be? But anyway, and I like
real quick, JR, just to read a couple of the YouTubers' comments. Vinkman says, Gwen, dude, what is in that Mountain Dew you're drinking, Brad? Enigma says, George, you might need a sedative. Bernardo said, I've never seen the crawl space so happy. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, people aren't used to this.
What if it means Cindy Moon?
But I'm intrigued to see,
what's intriguing? Yeah, what's intriguing for you?
No, I was intrigued to see, to see if he'll go back to the whole, well, Mysterio really did kill himself. And let's see what kind of spin he can put on that. The other thing that intrigued me, I have to confess, the Lizard being a teacher. It's like, it's like that has got to be, this is either going to be a cluster F or it could be really great. The Lizard is a teacher. It's like, I have to see where that goes. So those are my two pros.
Do you know the Lizard, whenever he has to call in sick to school, Stegron is a sub.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think George would say Stegron subs.
Well, here's the thing. I was talking to George about this over the Discord. I know he disagrees with me what I'm going to say about this, but does this mean we're going to have Peter being invited over to Dr. Connors and seeing the not wife and not son as the Lizard and sit down for dinner?
I know. I'm pretty sure that's down the drain.
I know you think that, but I just can't see that scene coming up or something like that.
We are shutting off the slot baggage, baby. We are shedding it like a dead skin on a snake. It is.
Here's the thing,
George. It's like Muppets, the Great Muppet Caper, when they open the door on the plane and they take the Muppets as luggage and they throw them out the window. Remember?
Yeah. Welcome to Happiness Hotel, bitches.
So with that,
That's funny.
Have a legit.
I want a shirt with the Muppets.
I broke Brad.
Use your ass, Brad. I have a legitimate question.
Okay.
I have a legitimate answer.
Does the Lizard's family turn into flour with extra scales?
They turned. I'm pretty sure they disintegrated like a Thanos victim. We're never going to hear from them again.
Happiness Hotel, bitches.
With Kermit the Frog doing yay!
Yeah! Oh my god.
Okay. I didn't think we heard Ashley's pros.
You touched a lot of pros for me, except I could care less about MJ. Sorry, I won't know.
Oh my god!
And fighting words.
You must have crashed with that salt.
I'm ready to be sold on it. I'm kind of like, okay, Nick, give me what you got.
Yeah.
Here's the opportunity to kind of sell me on this. I'm not enthusiastic going in, but I'm open to it. I'll give it a try. So
Oh,
That's all you can do. That's awesome. That's good. It's an open mind.
I like the art a lot, especially how MJ was drawn. I like because I feel like whenever I've seen her before, she's just has this super doll face that I've never really liked, but in here, like usually she's still incredibly, very attractive and everything, but there's so much character and expression that's just it was so there's so much communicated in it. It wasn't just like, oh, let's make her look like a model on every page. She looked really human. And I really liked
hadn't really had this much expression, I'll be honest, since Romita Jr. draw.
Yep.
He really hadn't.
I'm kind of mixed on the art. What do you guys think?
Well, let Ashley.
I love the little nuances, like Peter's bedhead in the beginning. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And some of the expressions are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Actually, Brad, you were going to get into.
Let's have the rest of Ashley's pros. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what I liked most is that even though we're finally kind of getting what needed to happen, the natural consequence of him going forward and not taking responsibility for having a degree that wasn't his and all these things that he just went along with, like, oh, well, I woke up and had all these things that I didn't actually earn myself, but we're just going to keep going with it because that's just where the story's going to go. Even though he had the natural consequence of that and he has to kind of wake up and face the coffee, you still, when I was reading it, I still felt the
what?
Thing
back the hell up. Face the coffee?
Gotta face the coffee?
No.
I like it. What?
No.
What was the line?
Questions.
Smell the coffee.
The coffee?
Oh, smell the coffee, not face the coffee.
It's late. I'm tired.
Here, look, George is facing the coffee right now. Happiness Hotel, bitches.
Bruh.
Sorry.
And he's gonna do something with coffee. It's gonna be at his face somehow. Either way. But you still feel the sting of that injustice. You're like, no, yeah, he didn't plagiarize it. And I found myself kind of rooting for him and being like, you don't want this to happen to him. But as it goes through, you realize, no, he is at fault here, and you kind of have to. He has to take responsibility. So, I like that. I don't know what or how he does it, but you just really feel like you're in Peter's shoes in that moment. And it's such a nice change from Slot, where it feels like he's constantly the butt of a joke.
Yes.
And anytime something bad happens to him, you're like, well, you deserve that. You feel like you're constantly laughing at him.
Josh on YouTube says this, and see if this is an accurate statement.
This is accurate. He
says Ashley doesn't care for Mary Jane because she hasn't read any classic stories. Her only real experience with the character is the post One More Day iteration. With that in mind, I can't blame her for her stance on Mary Jane. Do you think that's true?
Yes and no. I think there's been nothing to draw me to her.
That's true. For 10 years, there hasn't been.
Yeah. She's just not the kind of female character I like. Like with Felicia, like, okay, she's the, God, what do you call it? She's cat burglar. She goes out there. She's got a costume. She kicks ass, and she's got a lot of these points that I really like in certain characters. But with MJ, I've never really. Like, if you had a list, if you just listed out like what they do, I'd be like, not my cup of tea. I just don't really see there's nothing here to draw me in to really hook me.
Yeah.
So
before we move on to cons, any other pros that we've missed?
Can I make a quick reference to a former member of our show, Don Grant, and I were talking the other day about this, and he says, I just read it and I actually enjoyed it. To me, this feels like the actual Parker luck, i.e. Peter's life is messed up because he's Spider-Man, not because he's inanely a loser.
Yes.
We're as readers with Peter the whole time, and he's more appropriately melancholy than Slot's Peter was. It's not a gag comic. It feels like Spider-Man. And characters like Robbie and Aunt May aren't hating him as much. The Marvel heroes are annoyed at him, but we've seen worse. He takes down Mysterio and saves the city in one punch. He gave it a B. Peter peeing down on his luck is old news, but the execution is right up more his alley. So I just thought his point about it feeling like the actual Parker Luck needed, and I didn't want to steal it from him because that was a really great point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got, since this is Mike's Mike's review, we're going to start with him for cons first,
okay,
and then I'm going immediately to JR.
Okay. All right. So mainly my cons are more like technical aspects of it. I mean, to say about Ryan Otley's art, he's really good. Ashley's right about the whole facial expressions and everything, but I think when it came to some of those scenes with the Avengers and him and everything, it does look a little stiff in places. It's very, very kind of seems a little bit posed and everything. And also, the thing is, mainly, I think people who have been reading Invincible will kind of notice how his characters kind of look very similar to how they looked in Invincible as well. Especially, I mean, I heard the joke about MJ. What's Peter Parker kissing Adam Eve for? Adam Eve is one of the characters was Invincible, and she's also a redhead and stuff. It's very kind of thing. But I know I was kind of trying to sort of making a joke about pulling out the Doc Brown whiteboard and jumping back and forth and everything. Mm-hmm. That's because the thing about the non-linear narrative, well, let's face it, sometimes it can work like a Christopher Nolan film, and this didn't really do that. It's kind of initially in the beginning, it was kind of. I understand why
all over the place too much.
No, it was just in the beginning. It was a little rough. I mean, after a while you read it, it gets okay, but I think it just initially it was, it needed a little bit more indications of what he was doing, and also about the the superhero community getting upset with him over what the Kingpin was doing. It was like, okay, that's a little kind of shoved in there. I mean, again, it's more like the reason why it's not quite a perfect thing, it's more like a technical aspect, like how he chose to structure narratives. Because otherwise, I think the character work is solid, the humor is solid, the art is actually solid, and everything else. So it's just these minor little things that I think just kind of, to me, that just didn't quite reach it above there. So
I will say this: I think his Spider-Man specifically is probably the most dynamic Spider-Man that I've seen in terms of new artists coming onto the book.
Yeah,
he's the second best outside of Ryan Stegman. I think him and Ryan Stegman are.
Yeah, Ryan was great.
The newest style of Spider-Man that we've not seen that kind of style. Okay.
Yeah,
that style fits Spencer really well.
Oh yeah, he's really it's perfect style for him. I just saying that if you're especially if you're doing like character work with the faces and stuff like that. It's just that I kind of like to see a little bit more, being a little bit more fluid, not bodily fluid, mind you, but with all those exploding aliens and stuff. But just a little bit more.
What the hell is wrong with you, McNulty?
Well, you saw that thing.
You missed the bottom.
You missed the fluid talk earlier.
Oh damn! What a shame.
All right, I want to hear this. JR, your biggest cons, go. The lowest grade of the podcast.
I don't know. I feel like apparently I feel like I've read a bizarro version of the story as opposed to everybody else. The scene with Aunt May absolutely appalled me.
Really?
Because here's the thing. Peter's sitting there peeing in his pants because Aunt May is criticizing him. And it's like, just last issue, Norman Osborn tried to kill her. Okay. And the reason Peter is going through this colossal cluster F is because of something that was done to him as Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Norman went to kill Aunt May because he is Spider-Man. Peter owes Aunt May explanations.
I will
absolutely owes her explanations for the things that have happened in her life that he is responsible for. And there's this bullshit, up panels where why is it that no matter what I do, the people I love are always the one who end up paying for my mistakes? You know why? Because you're not an effing man. You're not an effing man telling people, the people who mean the most to you, the truth about yourself. That is not the way a man handles things. And for Peter to sit there like a cowering little boy while Aunt May chews on him a little bit, I find completely unacceptable.
If I may rebuttal against that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go fucking right ahead.
Oh! Whoa! JR, you censored all the other F's but that. Holy cow.
Oh my
Honestly,
God!
I can't.
County's hot.
Would you talk to your mother this way? Would you absolutely sit there and cower while your mother talked to you this way?
Yes, my mother looks at me. I'm a 46-year-old man, and my mother routinely looks at me when I visit her. And if I piss her off, she says, "Look, I brought you into this world. I can still take you out." And I know she's not kidding.
I'm disappointed.
Anyway, go ahead, Chi-Town. Go ahead.
Real quick, Chi-Town, the YouTubers are going crazy for JR. JR is salty. JR, preach, brother. Uncensored JR, unleashed.
Unfiltered.
Okay. Now, I will, while Chi-Town, he's got something going on for a second. I will say this. I mentioned this in the recap while Mike was doing this, that this would have been completely mitigated. And I agree with you, JR, if he would just tell Aunt May he's Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
JR, if the story that Straczynski did never happened, that would be the standard Spider-Man. I can't tell her because I'll hurt her. If that
is so effing stupid. He's hurting her more by continually lying to her face. And Straczynski was absolutely right for her to be mad at him, because this is one of the most important parts of your life for the last X number of years, and you've been lying to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this reminded me of that time in Swing Shift. Remember Swing Shift? It brought back more visions of one brand new day when Aunt May ended that story and Peter was lying on the bed and the birthday cake was crumbled. Oh, I just wish he'd be more responsible. No, he is responsible. And May, you know that. You know he is Spider-Man. You know he is Spider-Man. All right.
Devil Breaker, damn F-bomb, JR bomb, Goblin bombs.
Well, here's the thing, though. All right. And
this is my rebuttal.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Here, let George talk real quick, and then we'll get your shot.
Just real quick, I just want to point out, because I said it, I mentioned it earlier, the Aunt May thing, and there's a couple of other things in here like Daredevil, I think this is all going to be moved forward, and we're going to see progress on that. We're going to see more exploration of that. And here's something I haven't said about a Marvel writer, and God knows how long. I trust Spencer.
Ooh,
I trust Spencer, and I'm like, let's see where he goes with this. When was the last time I ever said that?
It's the big one.
So that was just a thing that I agree with JR in the sense that he owes May explanations and things like that. But I think this is more of a thing that's like it's coming, and it's like it's one of those moments where Aunt May just kind of goes off like a tea kettle.
JR, it's coming up in the next movie. They may tie it in.
Well, I was about to say Chi-Town needs his rebuttal. I mean,
okay,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Basically what George just said, when Peter went to go face Aunt May and Aunt May, chewed him out, then he's fighting aliens, and then Mysterio gives like, maybe I should have done things differently. I was just trying to do things differently and whatnot. I think he's starting to learn his responsibility. I think he's starting like, okay, yeah, now after that, he starts being a man. That's why he went to Mary Jane. And I'm pretty sure that in the next few issues, he may tell Aunt May, I'm Spider-Man.
It could happen.
I would agree with that very much. That just all in good time. I think the jury's still out on this. It's too quick to make a judgment as far as that. I mean, we could very well in the next few issues see where he says, I've been thinking about everything that's happened and I need to sit down with Aunt May and have this talk with her. But that's such a big moment. We couldn't have had that squeezed into this issue. There's just not the space for it.
Well, the thing is, we have seen this so many times, though, and it never gets resolved. Peter stands there sulking. He wishes he could tell Aunt May something. And this is, I guess, perhaps I'm just too darned old, because it's like, and maybe it is time to give up. Maybe it's not. I don't want to target Nick Spencer. I don't, and you're right. He may have a plan. But the thing is, though, I feel, it's kind of like, I don't have George's faith. I don't have George's.
pretty hard to say, isn't it?
He can't even complete that sentence.
But now it infuriated me the same way that the whole remember when when you were 15 years old and you ran out crying because your uncle got blown away, you didn't stay around and comfort me, and I'm so mad at you. This is what that reminded me of.
Did that scene take it down so many letter grades for you? Is that the one scene, or is that your main con?
Well, that's my main con, but and here's the thing. I mean, the whole idea of Peter and the grad degree, I've had mixed feelings about that, because you're right. I mean, he didn't really earn it, but it's one of those things where you say, okay, how do you, everybody, I mean, it's public. Everybody saw you get it. It's like, so how do you say I don't deserve it? When theoretically you did all the work. And I'm not saying it was right for him to take it, but for him to just say, "Oh yeah, I took credit for something I didn't do." It was like, well, how are you going to not take credit for it? What do you expect? Well, I was on drugs. I was, doing a little, how do you not?
I don't think that's how that works. They're
yeah,
but left-handed cigarettes don't cause that, buddy.
Well, I was thinking of some other kind of cigarette, but it's like an alien took over my brain, and the alien, it's kind of one of those where, I mean, I can see that that's something, and I agree that that's something that kind of needs to be undone, but I mean, if Peter's going to be honest with himself, he's got to say, yeah, I should have done it, but how the F was I going to do it? That kind of thing.
Slight counterpoint to that. Going a little flashback to because it was going another counterpoint.
Hold up! Last time someone gave a counterpoint, he dropped a goblin F-bomb.
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I felt that.
I just have a nice face.
He felt it in Chicago, JR.
Wow.
I thought the firecracker stopped.
This issue, there is a point where Peter makes a reference to Dr. Lamaze. Now, if you remember in Superior Spider-Man, Dr. Lamaze was the one guy who exposed, quote, Doc Spock as, oh no, this is not written by Peter Parker, this is written by Dr. Octopus. He even said that, like, yeah, and I can prove it because, I've got the copy of the paper and everything like this. And then Doc Ock had to actually make some kind of a whole hologram of himself to go to Dr. Lamaze and say, oh no, Peter Parker was my protege and everything like this. So there was a point where it was uncovered, but then they had this whole thing. So, so it's not like this thing couldn't have been, explained or whatever it is like this. I think the thing is you're saying if what Peter would have done, he could have just said, okay, fine. He just could have said, okay, I'll take responsibility for it and see what kind of comes what may, rather than just saying, oh, well, them's the breaks. And, because essentially, again, it's something that it's the whole idea. Like, you complain about the fact that he's not telling Aunt May. To me, that was the egregious thing, is that he's not this is a guy who's supposedly all about taking responsibility for, the power he's given and stuff. And the fact that he's just been handed this thing that he didn't actually deserve, that he knowingly knows that this is something that he, didn't deserve at all or didn't do or anything. But again, it just seems like, and I know I've got this question too, like what else could he resolve this thing? But again, it's just,
well, the fact that you don't have a good answer or a quick answer or a neat answer indicates that there is no neat answer to it.
Well, but again, the way that Spencer was able to fit this in anyway, the fact that he was kind of exposed and and Peter kind of realizes, oh, this is something I should have somehow dealt with but didn't, and this is coming back on me, and now I've got to fix, rectify this.
One thing I remember hearing is JR's thoughts on Mary Jane coming back.
Well, again, this kind of goes back to not having George's faith. I can just see it now. George is the deeply religious person, and I'm the atheist. And it's kind of like I don't have any faith. They're not going to bring the marriage back. It's not going to.
Oh no, I don't think anyone has that illusion either.
Exactly. So it's not going to be resolved until then. It's like, to me, I don't care. I don't care if they, if they start shacking up or whatever or anything like that. If the marriage doesn't come back, it's not resolved. So stop effing with me. Stop teasing us. Just stop.
Pumpkin bombs.
Kill her off then.
Stop it.
Come on.
Here.
That would be dramatically sloppy since they've already killed Gwenno. I was being facetious with
Man, get the redhead off the bridge, JR.
But it's like, I just find, we're being effed with again.
So do you think the Mary Jane and Peter back together is not going to be long term? Do you think the rug's going to be pulled out?
I don't have any faith that it will be long term.
What the rest?
I don't have any faith. It's like George Michael, took it to the grave with him. I don't have any more.
Well, I think
what
that was such an odd, just terrible.
Oh, faith.
Gotta have faith.
Got it. Good gosh.
Yeah.
I got Happiness Hotel. I didn't get the faith.
Right.
You didn't get. That's one of George Michael's most famous songs, and you didn't get.
Come on, Douglas.
I didn't see JR being a big George Michael fan. First off,
I
quote him. I don't imagine you in the '80s dancing to Faith.
No, it's the same reason that someone that I think 227-060 Venom 65349 was curious about me quoting Shrek. It's pop culture. You're going to hear all kinds of pop culture references.
JR, in the 90s, did you Vogue?
You mean the Macarena brand?
Do that again, Douglas.
Hey, Macarena.
I don't know. I was going to say, did you ever go to the barber? I mean,
Oh,
man.
You're going to get a goblin F-bomb aimed at you.
Oh my God.
All right, now let me talk to JR's thing about faith for a second. Okay, and this is very important. Because you know me. I mean, and here's the thing. I haven't bothered with spoilers or anything else on this thing. I didn't even read it until Thursday. Because everything we were seeing, new girlfriend, this, and I'm like, you know what? It's second verse, same as the first. I had written this off. And, but when I read this issue, there was, and I had mentioned it before, and I mentioned it a lot on the Discord and elsewhere. There's so much meta message in this thing. And for those of you who don't know it, that means there's underlying context to what's being gone. It's like there's stuff outside that's being talked about in the story.
It's self-referential.
Right. It's stuff. And when you get to that second to last page, those 6 panels, specific. I mean, this whole issue is laced with it.
Oh, very
but when
so.
you get to those 6 panels and the way Peter's dialogue is, and the way that the way that the narration, is laid out on that, it is. You can't. I don't know how you can read that and not understand that it's basically Marvel's way of doing a rebirth and saying, yeah, we've been doing stuff wrong for a while.
It's the closest to a mea culpa we're going to get.
It is. It's as close as we're going to get. It definitely is as close as we're going to get.
Yeah.
But it definitely will. Every time I'm reading, and I read that one page over and over and over and over again. Just because there was so much of a message there, I felt, and I don't know how you could read it and not think that there was.
Well,
and
has Zdarsky gotten the message over at Spectacular? Then
yes. But again,
there's a Mephisto reference in the book.
Is that something Nick told you? Graham crackers?
but again, I think after a while, we had 10 years of Peter going into these different romance, because that's one of the reasons One More Day was supposed to happen, was because, it opens Peter up to all these new relationships. Well, every single relationship we've had since, One More Day has been just one dead end after another, and one boring thing after another. You had Carly Cooper, we had Silk, we had the Asian sissy Ironwood, whose name we can't even spell right or something. You had Mockingbird in there. And again, every single one of these, it's just maybe just because of the way they were written or something, it just felt really dull because you realized they weren't going to go anywhere. They were just kind of
I like what Josh Nelson said in chat. JR just rammed Brad with his glider. Any other cons before we start?
One more.
Okay.
I'm tired. I've said this before. I'm tired of the Kingpin. I'm tired of the Kingpin. I guess in a way, someone would say, "Wait a minute, Jr. I mean, Norman Osborn keeps getting away with crap all the time, and he keeps resurfacing every now and then." But Spider-Man, Spider-Man beat the Kingpin with an inch of his life. Anytime Spider-Man even meets Fisk, he should say, "Fisk, I beat you to within an inch of your life. You're only standing right now is because I chose not to put you 6 feet under. Out of my way, fat man. I never want to see you again." It's I don't know. And Fisk is probably too arrogant to accept that. But
he is honestly,
the Kingpin should be no match for Spider-Man. He should never have been a match for Spider-Man. I think JMS handled it exactly the right way. There is no way Fisk can, even if he's 300 pounds of muscle, he can't move as fast as Spider-Man. Spider-Man can hit him 10 times before Fisk can raise his fist.
And we've pointed this out before. We've covered Kingpin fights, Brad, on Fight Club. Is that like a lot of times when he has done well against Spider-Man, Spider-Man's been injured already, or something has. There's something that Spider-Man's not fighting him at 100 like 100%. So JR's got a good point on this.
So Fisk is hitting him at a different angle, though, JR.
Yeah,
he's embarrassing him.
I'd grab the fat. I would grab him.
He's not fat though. That's the thing. He's not.
I would grab him by his tie, pull him down, and tell him, Fisk, don't F with me. You know what happened the last time you F'd with me.
You mean in front of all those of all those cameras that he's got set up?
Who cares? And here's another thing. The whole idea that Spider-Man tells jokes because he wants other people to like him. Is that what Spencer believes, or is that a characterization of what the Kingpin believes?
I think that's more what Fisk believes.
Okay, that's what I wondered, because that is not why Spider-Man tells jokes, because he's craving the approval of everybody else. Spider-Man's used to being the outsider. After a while, when you're used to being the outsider, you say F you to everybody else. You don't want to be on the cool kids team anymore, even if you become cool, because the cool kids wouldn't give you a seat at the table for so long. So,
my question to JR is, because most of us were pleased to the way he cleaned up house a bit. How would you a lot? How would you have cleaned up 10 years of Slott?
Mary Jane gets up out of bed and Peter's taking a shower.
Dallas. I feel like Dallas.
Dallas style? More Texas.
I will say this: at the end of the day, this felt like Spider-Man for the first time in a long time.
Yes. It did.
Will you admit that? Did it feel like Spider-Man?
I was ready to give up after this issue. I really was. I'm still.
We brought you back in.
No, you haven't. No, you pulled me back in. No, it's like I just, I'm really. It's like everything. I like the whole thing with Mysterio, for example. Even though I like the whole thing with Mysterio, the first thing I thought of was, well, gee, I'm remembering the reboot, Amazing Spider-Man #1, 1999. When Scorpion got an upgrade, and we had this mysterious figure, behind it, and it turned out to be Captain.
It's not Howard Mackey.
It turned out to be Captain F and Power. It's like I've seen this before. And maybe, like I said, maybe that's why it's time. We were talking about Slott. Spencer and I had this conversation. It's like, it's like, Spencer, should I give it up or whatever?
No.
And then Spencer says, I gotta go see my girlfriend.
Good for Spencer. I'm not gonna lie. He's got
and Chi-Town and Mike, I was not fussing with your giving me.
I know. Yeah.
I was on a dramatic roll. So
I liked it.
Real quick, I think we're done with cons. I want to talk to Chi-Town. You got to meet Nick Spencer today. Talk about that.
Yeah, I want to hear about all this.
I want to hear the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after work, I went over to Grand Crackers Comics. My buddy called me up, and I went over to go meet Nick, and he had his handler there. So that's the guy that, takes care of Nick and makes sure all the interviews and like a screen background thing. And he was really a nice and professional guy. So there was a line going out of the store I remember calling Zach and saying, you know, I have never felt this nervous to meet someone who actually fixed my hero. This is a guy that, you know,
nice.
I mean, I've met J. Scott Campbell. I've met Cebulski. I've met Dan Slott. I met Joe Quesada. I met Alex Solvik. I Mark Bagley, Bendis, all of them. And I just felt comfortable.
Yeah.
But this is a guy that's like really, I mean, the day before, I got everything prepared. And I went to go see Incredibles 2 with my wife and my kid, our first movie. And I felt like the Fonz. I was cool. And then while driving after work to this comic book shop, I felt like Richie Cunningham. Like I just went down. And I was just extremely nervous, but he was really friendly. He was really nice. I remember some people, you know, the first guy that came up to him, like I overheard his conversation. He said, "Man, when I heard you were being on Spider-Man, I was amazed. Like, who could they find to replace Slott?" And I'm in my mind, I'm like, anyone. And
let's throw a rock out a window.
So Nick,
what was his reply to that?
I didn't hear. I just kind of walked away because I had to go change.
Yeah.
So
because you cosplayed in the store Spider-Man.
I did. I thought it would be really cool. You know, you have the writer of Spider-Man and then Spider-Man right there, and we got some pictures. I think some pictures made it onto Instagram. I've been getting notifications about it.
Sweet.
But
sweet. Nice.
Is he from Chicago, or was he just promoting there or something?
Promoting. He was promoting it. He's actually from Tennessee or Kentucky, one of the two. Because I heard them.
I thought he was in Chicago. I thought he was in Chicago for a time because he had an early political career for a time before he went into comic writing. I thought.
I don't know about that.
Okay, I'll have to look that up at some point.
So take me from the point where you go up to him. What's your first words you say to him? Stuff like that. Nick
Thank
Spencer.
You. I say thank you right away. I shake his hand. He's like, "Oh, you're welcome." You know, I don't know what I did. I'm like, "You brought Spider-Man back. You brought the Spider-Man that I know, that I love, back, and you brought Spider-Man's girl back, and you brought his, you know, responsibilities, and he has to take, you know, he has to take what's the word I'm looking for? Accusations for those responsibilities. Guilt. The guilt wasn't even in AMS #1. So I interviewed him. I asked the questions, which you can find on the front page of the Crawlspace, and he said yes to an interview to Brad. I mean, he said yes. He's like, yeah, I would absolutely love to do an interview. And I gave Brad the
I've got the email
information. And after San Diego Comic-Con.
You know, one thing I did say to Chi-Town is that we just one to breathe.
Yeah.
Remember to breathe, especially when you're feeling that nervous. But secondly, is that these are people too. And I think at the end of the day, sometimes we get a little hero worship when we interview or talk to these guys. And Brad, you can probably talk about this more than anybody because you've interviewed more than anybody else on this show. But when you're talking with these guys, one, they're at their core, they're not too much different than us. Mm-hmm. Sometimes to their own detriment. Slott.
No, our interview with Slott and when he first started was fun. I had fun with those.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brad, do you really want to interview another amazing Spider-Man writer? Because the last time you did, you wound up banning him.
At the beginning of his run. No, one thing I said...
Your luck is not good there, Douglas.
The thing is, it's like...
Yeah.
We had such reverence for Slott. I mean, you go back to listen to those old episodes. Mm-hmm. It's like if we us then we love Dan Slott. Us now.
Yeah. One thing I said to Chi-Town is I'm like, thank you for giving the site and the podcast a good first impression to the writer.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was him. I mean, have you ever heard of the Crawlspace? And he's like, I think I kind of did. He wasn't sure, but I gave him George's letter.
That's real quick. That's that when he says, "Oh, I think it kind of," that's his way of saying, "Yes, everyone at Marvel was telling me how batshit crazy you people are." I'm trying not to set you the F off right now.
Oh, those people.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chi-Town.
But he said that letter was awesome. He loved it, and he.
So you handed him George's review. You printed George's review off, handed it to him.
I showed him Mark's review. I showed him Neil's review, and he liked it, but. I think it was like in looking at the second page because I printed out George's, and he started busting the gut laughing. He thought it was just funny. He's like, "This is great."
He thought mine was funny.
Yeah, he loved it. He loved it. I mean,
I was actually like wiping away happy tears writing it.
This is awesome.
What?
He's like, "This is awesome. This is the kind of this is the type of response I think he wants." And
his smile was huge in those pictures.
Yeah,
it really was. It was huge.
Nice guy, and
right
after everything that we've been through with Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had some ups and downs. We've made some mistakes along the way. We had a pretty good relationship with Arun Singh, the Marvel's PR guy that was there pre-Disney buyout. And we had a really good relationship with him until he left. To see a writer and by extension Marvel, because he's a representative of Marvel, Steve Wacker, despite what you say. George, that guy may give you flashbacks. Sorry.
No. Yeah, I know what you meant.
But to see it, get off on the right foot, I thought, what better ambassador than the guy that dresses up as Spider-Man to not only make the people around him happy, but kids happy too. Just Chi-Town Spidey's been a great addition to our
I agree.
group. And
Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
As an ambassador for our site, because I think we all take a little bit of ownership with this show and the site. Obviously, it's Brad's baby, but we're all Brad's brothers and sister. Don't forget about Ashley, who looks so tired right now. I feel so bad for her. But
I'm just like the cousin you see at weddings and funerals.
Yeah, Dark Mark's like the drunk uncle they let out of the when they gotta like hose him down in the backyard.
Yeah.
Feed the guy a Twinkie. He's at the wedding again.
That's his only form of sustenance is Twinkies. But again, just to see the smile on Spencer's face, like George said.
And the smile on George's face too. My God,
that's awesome.
Like I'm excited to sit down and break bread with the man again. Like I always was so fearful he was gonna if we started talking Spider-Man, he'd Hulk out on the table.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, like when people find out I'm a Spider-Man fan, it's rough because I'm like because then they want to talk about it and I'm like I don't want to talk about it, and they're like why don't you want to talk about it? You're a fan. Oh yeah, I read this comic, and I know already it's a slot comic. I'm like, you didn't read a Spider-Man comic. You didn't. I'm sorry. And, those conversations are difficult to have. They just
true.
They really
very are.
Re-educate people a bit.
Yes,
and
exactly,
so a lot of times you just kind of nod and you're like, oh, why do you like Spider-Man? And I list the reasons. Well, he doesn't give up. He beats ass. Like the whole thing. He's about responsibility. But it's been rough trying to talk about Spider-Man for a long time. It really has because I've been that disappointed with it.
Right. Before we wrap the show up, I'm going to get some last thoughts from the YouTubers. Josh wants to know, are you guys missing Slot yet? No.
Well,
one issue.
Spider-Man's coming, folks. If you were missing Slot, he's probably coming back for that.
Bernardo wants to know if we're excited for Superior Octopus.
Nah.
It's
no.
Yeah.
I think Slot would write that?
There is one last thing we got to talk about, Brad. You know what I'm talking about.
What's that? Oh, yeah. We'll get that too.
Okay.
Spencer,
Brad, we got to talk about one more thing. You know what that is. What's that?
I do know what it is. We'll talk about that in just a second. Spencer still has to stick the landing. Take it down a notch, says Enigma.
Well, I mean, it's just one issue. I kind of see his point. Look, if we get another couple issues later, we can see. Yeah.
God almighty, it's such a good start, though.
Yeah. It's a good start.
Think about this. Think about Reset comics you've read in the past, right? And and really, I mean, they're so obvious and they're so blatant. I mean, and so is this one. But at the same time, this one worked better than any Reset comic I think I've ever read.
I enjoyed DC Rebirth immensely, and I felt they did a lot of damage control. But for an individual character, this was the best back to basics to the core of the character, not back to basics of what the writer thinks the core of the character is.
Right. Yes.
Kalen268 says, love the positive energy you all are showing about the last issue. I'm right there with you. It's a breath of fresh air. Boy, we just went Febreze up on this show, didn't we? This thing was stinking with these last 10 years with the book. Man.
Dude,
I like to call this book The Fix.
The Fix.
The Fix.
The Vorer. What villains do you want to see more back under Spencer?
Shocker.
Judas
Shocker.
Shroud.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, if he's already got Boomerang and Beetle in there, he's got to put in the other
the
superior
Shocker.
foes in there.
Yeah.
He's got to put the other superior foes in there and make an appearance.
To go back to the other point, Superior Octopus, is Slott writing that, you'd think, or Spencer? Gage.
Probably Gage. I cannot see Dan Slott. Sorry, cannot see Dan Slott writing 3 books.
Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody on the Discord chat about that.
That's gonna cut into internet fight time.
The other book,
but again, Doc Ock is the Superior Octopus. That's kind of Dan Slott's character. I mean, you can tell when he was writing 800 he was pitching that title, and so I can't. Again, I'm thinking he wants to
let him go write the character that he wanted to write after he started doing Superior Spider-Man.
Right, yeah.
Bad rubbish.
They also, the news that's coming out of San Diego is Spider Ghost is the new name of Spider Gwen. What do you guys think of that?
I like it. It gives her own identity. It's better than just having her be Spider Gwen.
Or Ghost Spider is actually what it was supposed to be.
Oh, Ghost Spider, not Spider Ghost.
Really gonna for the first time in since 2010 in 8 years, the San Diego Comic-Con is actually going to be a convention worth going to. And the panel is no longer going to be shit that Nick Lowe edits. It's actually Spider-Man announcements.
Vinkman wants to know, what do you think of the Ryan Otley's art? The way he drew Spidey's eyes reminds him of 90s Bagley.
Very much so. Very much. That's why I enjoyed it. I like the little notch because it kind of looks like nose pieces.
I feel kind of bad for Otley in this regard, although the reaction so far I've seen has been positive for the most part. But what I feel kind of bad in this in that as we call it, the fix. It's really, it probably sucks all the air out of the room. For the artist, Otley did very good work.
He did.
I mean, his style works with Spencer, and it's a good style for Spider-Man.
It just feels fresh because it's not somebody that you've seen in a long time. Certainly, you've not seen him at Marvel, so it's somebody that's new, it's familiar to comic fans in general, but it's fresh.
I like it as much as I did when I first saw like Ryan Stegman stuff. On like Renew Your Vows.
Josh Nelson says, JR, I hope you stick around. Even when I disagree with you, you still articulate and explain your stance very well. So don't leave, JR. They love you.
We're going to make JR an offer he can't refuse.
Javi, what's up, Javi? I don't think Spider-Gwen can survive the loss of Latour and Rodriguez.
I think JR was going to comment on that, Brad.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Symbio, bro, how does the podcast panel feel about the lizard being there after how you guys... Symbio, bro. Sorry, I get that wrong every time. How does the podcast panel feel about Lizard being there after how you guys have felt about him?
I'm excited for it.
Look, I'm ready for a good damn Lizard story because there hasn't been very many. So
Bernardo says we've had Ditko news. Well, we have Slot news.
Okay. Number 1, hell no. Number 2, God damn it, hell no. Number 3. Real quick about the Lizard. We have to remember it's not just Spider-Man that's gotten effed up over the last 10 years. There's other characters that this last decade has taken a tremendous toll on. Lizard is one of them, one of the bigger ones. So there's still a lot of damage that has to be fixed. And I have faith in Spencer.
Ooh. The Vorer, speaking of faith that JR does not have, the Vorer says he has faith in JR because JR got me into Spider-Man comics after only being familiar with the 90s cartoon. So I'm really thankful to him. I bought the omnibus of Roger Stern's run based on JR's recommendations. Woo! JR, you need a cut of that Amazon order.
Now see, the Vorer, it's stuff like that make me sit and be, well, maybe I have to stick with this a little while longer.
The Vorer brought you back.
I think JR and I are alike in a lot of respects, and I mean, like in a lot of ways, I understand, JR. I get it. And it's, remember when I even wrote this up, you know, it was like that letter we got at the end of ASM from Lowe explaining how, well, yeah, we may have had basically lie about some things in order to keep a lot of this secret, you know, but when they went out of their way to explain that, that to me was like, okay, you know what? I'm down. I'm giving you a chance. Let's do this. Let's do it. I'm on board. And I think JR, I think eventually, I think you're going to get there. I think eventually you will. It's hard. And dude, it's hard. It's hard to have faith. It really is. I mean, I am right there with you. I get it. I understand it. I mean, up until on Wednesday, I didn't have any faith. And then on Thursday, I was like, holy shit. It's like, this book is amazing again.
Are you ready for a miracle?
Are you ready? Yeah.
That's the opening song to this podcast. Justin Paris, JR's plain text formatting is what gave me the articles to read when things were slow at my job in 2008. Alt tabbing about why it had to be you, Mary Jane, got me through Monday, JR. They love you. Don't leave.
Alt text formatting and plain text formatting. In other words, my website sucked.
Hornacek says George sounds like he's trying to talk JR off the ledge.
Here's the thing. All right. Listen. JR and I are old war horses in this. We really are. We really, really are. All right. JR Fettinger. I'm going to look at the JR Fettinger. All right.
Hit it.
Come with me. Give it a chance. Let's keep an open mind and let's see what happens. Let's do it, brother. Let's do it. Let's do it. I am right there with you.
I feel like we should be taking hands, man.
Here, hold your hand up, JR.
Leave some music playing.
Take my Kirby hand, JR. And yeah, Ashley's going to sing us a song. Since she wants music, Ashley's going to sing us a song while take my Kirby hand, brother. Let's do this together, JR.
Everybody hold out your hand for JR.
Remember.
Come on, brother. Hashtag I believe in Spencer. I believe in Spencer.
The power of Spencer can
Come on.
You know, it's almost like now I have to stay for the next 12 issues, and then we can revisit it and say, well, who was right?
No, JR, and that's fine. But here's the thing, and again, some of you saw me post this on Facebook. Some of you saw it in the Discord. I posted a video of like the end of Private Ryan.
Oh yeah.
Tom Hanks is like done, right? And he's telling Matt Damon to earn this. And I posted that clip because like that's my way of saying, you know, no one has. I take that back. No one. A lot of people have been as mad as I am and angry as the way this character has been handled. But I mean, dude, you have to let it go now.
Hornacek says George is like to JR. JR, come with me if you want to live. Javi says time to start a Patreon to pay for JR Spider-Man comics. What's the other one? It says put the bleach down, JR.
Oh man.
Okay, speaking of Patreon, Zach and I had an announcement. Go ahead, Zach. What are we gonna do?
All right.
We got a new show starting up.
So we love our Patreon subscribers, and we wanted to figure out a way to give back to them.
Give them something unique.
That's unique and exclusive, but that's something that people have requested. Come back. So Brad and I were talking, and it's just gonna be me and Brad and one other person. I won't say who. We'll save that for the actual debut episode of the Spider Satellites. Are going to be Patreon exclusive. It'll be, like I say, they're just the three of us. The format's going to be a little different. So we're going to be kind of experimenting and playing with the format a little bit to make it a little more palatable. I can't.
So we get through them a little faster.
Yeah.
And get more opinions on it.
Yeah. And get a little further in depth on the Spider Satellites. So for those that are wondering, Spectacular Spider-Man was not talked about on this episode. We're going to cover those last two.
Have fun with that.
Those next two.
Hey, I got to write the reviews for those.
So, Spec, some of those books like Spider Gwen, Spider Superior Ock.
We'll cover the Superior Octopus.
The new Miles book.
Spider
Venom.
Yeah, Venom.
Spider-Geddon. A lot of those will be available. Devore says, will a podcast be called Baking Clones with Zach?
No, it's not Zach.
But no. So if you'd like to join the Patreon, it's on the right-hand side of the site. It's also at the very bottom of every article. It helps pay the bills for this site. And
are we still doing that one thing for the Patreon?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I'll explain that to you later.
All right. Also, real quick, I wanted to comment on this. Matt Bird in the chat said, so does this mean Quesada is gone? And I get your message, Matt Bird. I understand what you're saying. I believe me, I understand. And I will never believe a goddamn word out of Joe Quesada's mouth ever again. Never mistake me. Never mistake my willingness to let the past go and give Marvel a second go and give Cebulski and Lowe and Spencer a chance. I will never, ever give that to Joe Quesada. The man has shown he's not to be trusted. I'm sorry, he has. But the thing with Quesada got edged out of the movies. He did. He got edged out, and they sent him back to publishing, and he had to sort of put a bow on that and say, "Oh, I missed it so much."
Said it's still a promotion, but
yeah, okay. So he's kicked back over to publishing, and then on the publishing side, I think it was just done to sort of help Cebulski coming in, and they're like, "Oh, look, we're bringing in Joe to show Cebulski the ropes," and I think it's a big bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry, I do, and I got to say, I mean, it's stuff like this that makes me think that it's stuff like this ASM #1 that makes me think that.
Yeah,
I think it was basically he was kicked upstairs and given his position, he was able to keep his position because of his contributions to the company. But other than that, I don't think he's really going to be actively involved in day-to-day operations.
And thank Christ.
I think he'll have more to do with the Marvel animation side. I think
like
that's
Steve
where,
Wacker.
like with Steve Wacker and
you watching that new cartoon, Zach?
I am.
I can't take it. The animation's so poor.
The animation
is. It's really bad.
It's terrible. But like they keep bringing in like characters and kind of doing some new twists on it. Like I know this is going to trigger George, but they brought in the Jackal. He was a major villain of season 1.
Sounds like they're desperate.
But then they brought in Carolyn Trainer.
Oh, well, look at that.
Again, sounds like they're desperate.
Man,
sounds like Sony decided, no, we need a Carolyn Trainer movie. That's what it sounds like.
All right, let's go around the horn for final thoughts. This is a long episode. Zach, final thoughts.
Man, I'm so happy to be talking about Spider-Man in a positive way for the first time in so long. I think the last time we were this positive about something Spider-Man related was when Spider-Man was finally brought back to the MCU. And I think that was the last time when universally across the board, except for maybe JR because he's old and crotchety.
I can't sue someone for definition of characters.
But, to have this much positivity about Spider-Man, and particularly Spider-Man comics, for God's sake, is just freaking.
Well, the iTunes reviews ought to be a lot different. This show is so positive.
Yeah, what are they going to do when they can't call us negative anymore?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, well,
Right.
we may have a lot of angry slot fanboys that are like, oh, I can't believe how positive they are. The book sucks.
Yes, Justin in YouTube chat, JR did say definition of character. He agrees he's an old crotchety man. Mike, final thoughts.
Well, like I wrote the review of this issue for Bam Smack Pow, who would have thought that the guy who nearly destroyed Captain America could basically save Spider-Man, essentially.
Yeah.
I have seen the light, brother. I have seen
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Hallelujah, Brother George.
praise Jesus, dude.
Because, I mean, again, like I was saying in the recap and everything with Secret, I mean, like I said, we've talked about this on podcast before. It's like Spencer was toxic after Secret Empire. I mean, people from everywhere were just dumping on this guy and everything like this. And so when he was announced for this, there was cautious optimism, to put it mildly, for this. And this was essentially this was his chance to kind of, show that no, it's this I'm he still got his chops, and he did, and I think he did a really good, excellent job with this.
Hornacek says a future review on iTunes is, quote, the podcast is so positive they're all Spencer fanboys and girls.
Also for the Patreon subscribers, it's also for the lowest tier, I believe, right, Brad?
I don't know yet.
Okay,
we haven't discussed that.
We will make a formal announcement on the front page when we get that sorted out. But right now, this is happening.
Yeah, Mike, any other final thoughts?
Although Venkman did give a good point about that, we were initially excited for the Renew Your Vows miniseries. But yeah, toward the end,
it was tempered with the fact that Mary Jane was a superhero.
Yeah,
the daughter's a superhero. The daughter's not.
During the Secret Wars thing when Slott was writing that initially.
Oh,
I mean the first couple issues initially, but then then the rug got pulled out from under us with issue 5 or something. But
I remember defending Slott a couple of points, and I felt dirty.
What do we think?
I think
Renew Your
liked a
Vows
lot
being
of it,
like
but
a-
ultimately the villain was no good. That was kind of
the villain was crap.
What'd you say?
What do we think about Renew Your Vows being kind of a trial run for Nick Spencer's take? Kind of testing the audiences.
Well, it sold phenomenally well. It was one of the best-selling Secret Wars books during that period.
Yeah, but that's because it was Amazing Spider-Man.
But here's the thing, though. Marvel knows that Mary Jane is popular with Spider-Man fans. They spent the better part of 10 years trying to make you dislike her.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if maybe this was just like they needed. This is the they need more recent evidence. I don't know.
I don't think so, because I think that they knew already. And here's the thing. I mean, yeah, it didn't hurt, and you're going to draw more flies with honey than you are vinegar. And I'm sorry, Dan Slott's vinegar. And so I don't know that it was that they needed to try it out first, because they knew. I mean, that's why. I mean, my God, you have Mary Jane on. Remember that month we had Mary Jane on what 47,000?
Oh yeah.
They knew, but I'm not like saying actually no, you're wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying I don't think it's a case of that, because they already know how popular the character is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but Mary Jane's been made into a Marvel legend.
Yep.
She's bigger than Quesada. Sorry, Joe.
Dark Mark, final thoughts, sir.
I have 3 final thoughts.
All right.
One is I am more than willing to give Spencer a try. Give him a couple of issues to make sure that this stays the way it looks like it's going. And I can't wait to read more of these villains. If those of you who have not gone back and read Star-Lord that Spencer wrote a while back, you can find it on Marvel Unlimited. He has a great story arc that involves the bar with no name. So you go back and read some.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah. All those
Star-Lord come back to Earth to go to the bar with no name?
Yeah, he was stranded and stuck and on probation with the court system, and so he had to get a job.
Oh, that's
a job at the bar with no name.
Oh, I'll have to read. Is that in the Star-Lord solo comic?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Good. I'm going to read that tonight. That sounds good.
And third point, JR, you're the one who got me over to the crawl space. So.
Oh man, I'm starting to blush now.
A lot of people are like that.
Yep.
JR probably was one of the best quote unquote signings that Brad ever did.
Signings.
Signings.
I equate JR to my Captain America of the Avengers.
You got that from me. Don't even go there.
I'm sorry. I unfroze him from the ice of the 50s. Or the 40s.
Analogy from me.
I'm sorry. I cloned an analogy. It was appropriate. Okay. Final thoughts, Chi-Town.
I got 2 final thoughts.
All right.
One, thank you all of you for letting me play in your little sandbox. It's been a joy. I love doing it.
We love you, man. You've been.
And
you're better. You're better than Dark Mark, because you don't come to the sandbox and take a crap in it. The way
like your crazy uncle.
My gosh, we really like Mark. Don't let the crap humor fool you.
I mean, yeah, we totally like Dark Mark.
Spencer liked his review. Spencer liked
George's or Mark's review, or George?
Yeah, everyone's.
Awesome.
Neil's. And my
did he read them in front of you? Is that what he did?
he was looking through them while the lines were kind of slow.
Sweet.
So
Nice.
And remember when I called in, I think it was the first time, and my final thought was, make Spider-Man great again.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
We're here.
Yep.
We're here.
It's huge.
Josh Nelson says, or no, Hornacek says JR's site is the gateway drug for the crawl space. I love it. Okay, Ashley, final thoughts.
I'm just really excited to see some fresh takes on Spider-Man and some innovations to the story where we're at, giving him new roles to take on, new challenges, new situations that aren't going to sabotage the character.
Yes.
And
Ashley,
I'm excited too to see what kind of how it affects the podcast, because like ever since I've been here, it's fun ragging on bad issues, but
It's not fun. I wish we didn't have to.
oh, well, I'm a different sort of.
She's an editor.
I'm a
She's
different
paid to rag on stories.
I've had to. I had to edit someone's bad erotica this week. That was. I have a safe for work quote. We like to write up any of the really like weird raunchy ones. We write them up on our door. I put a moisture exploded between them. What the hell is that?
Oh my God.
Unclean.
And that's one of the tamer ones, honestly.
This podcast just went dark, and I'm not talking about Mark.
God.
No,
That escalated quickly.
I love finding this
That's
stuff to
the
rag
dirtiest
on.
final thought I've ever heard. Ashley just reviewed 50 Shades of Grey, says Enigma.
No, this stuff I edit makes 50 Shades of Grey look like art.
Yeah.
The world of self-publishing is very, very different from traditional publishing. It's made me look at books in an entirely new light. I have a much higher appreciation of traditionally published books now, even if they're not that great.
What was the genre of book you just said you just reviewed? What was it?
It was erotica.
Erotica. Can you imagine Dan Slott writing erotica?
Oh wow!
Oh no! Brad,
I sometimes too much happening.
You need to stop right now.
We need to move the hell on. Because I almost dropped something down that would have been hysterical and probably not cool. So we
didn't kind of do that.
Everybody, I am the superior lover.
Oh my God. Oh my
I say,
God.
let's move the hell on. And
See
Brad
what you started, Ashley. See what
I can
you've
see it
done.
now.
Welcome to the happiness of film.
Space After Dark.
You have now made both females of this show say, "Oh my gosh!" Throwing their hands up in the air. Douglas, you have a problem. We need intervention tomorrow.
Sorry.
No, we need to keep moving forward so I can go pee.
All right, George. Final thoughts.
He has to pee.
Happy days are here again. The sun is gonna shine again. So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again.
All right, sad final thought from JR. Go ahead.
Well,
Come off the bridge, you blonde. Don't jump.
I guess we'll see what happens in another 30 days, won't we?
Yes, we will. No.
It's kind of like JR's
enjoy it while it
photo.
Rather a promise, Jr.
It's
JR
kind of like,
just wants to watch the world burn.
We're like Sam.
all
We're
right.
like Sam from Lord of the Rings, holding out, going to Frodo, like, reach, give me your hand.
Okay, I gotta pee. Good night, everybody.
Good night, George. See you on the
41
Peace out.
YouTubers. Thank you for staying with us through this whole show. This has been a fun one.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hold on.